your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Barry will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner May.
Pastor Wesley, I want to thank you and all the work that the members of Greater Little Rock Church does in District 3 and for this entire community. You are the epitome of those who enter to worship but depart to serve, and thank you for your service, Pastor.
Thank you, Commissioner May. All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and do our, Chair would entertain a motion after we find out if there's any items to be added to the agenda. Madam Attorney?
No, sir.
Commissioner Bender?
No, sir.
Commissioner Barry? No. Commissioner May?
I'll hold it to a later date, but I think in Commissioner Swarm, I may have a discussion, but none at this time.
Okay. All right, very good. Commissioner Underhill?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
All right, nothing from me. Wes? No, sir. All right, very good. At this point, the Chair would entertain a
So move.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and second to adopt the agenda. Please vote. All right, that passes unanimously. Commissioners Forum, Commissioner Bender, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to thank our PIO staff, David and Andy, for coming out for the town hall, recording that last night, and also for our administrators, Wes, Debbie, and Wesley, for also attending last night, and of course for Representative Andrade and his staff, Trevor, and then of course Angela, with the help of the town hall last night. So I appreciated all the citizens that came out and discussed items with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Bender. Commissioner Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to recognize and congratulate a teacher of mine when I was at Tate. Kathleen Varner was recognized as the Escambia County School District Outstanding Volunteer of the Year this week, and she and her husband Mike were both at Tate when I was there, and I know that they spent careers in public service with helping educate our youth, as well as clearly giving back even post-retirement. Can't get enough of Tate High School. Also want to send congratulations to a friend of Escambia County, certainly a friend of District 3, Florida Department of Transportation. Jared Perdue was named the Florida Department of Transportation Secretary this afternoon. Oh, wow. And many of us were able to spend a number of years with Jared in leadership in District 3. He left a couple of years ago to take a district secretary job from the assistant secretary here, and has now graduated back to the Panhandle and to a secretary's position. And certainly, I know we all wish him congratulations and many years in that position.
All right on. Fantastic. Commissioner May?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Commissioner Barry. Jared, I was going to comment on it, but I think that we're going to be much better off in our region because of his position, and so we certainly appreciate it. I certainly want to thank the PIO and Dave and his staff, Claire, Horace Jones, Audrey Washington, and the entire staff working for our first-time home buyers. As we know, houses and homes are escalating to an unattainable rate, and our partnership to provide these affordable housing was important. And we probably had a couple hundred people this past weekend on a Saturday who are all seeking home ownership. And so, Horace, we do appreciate it to have the planning director there to talk about planning, and we do appreciate our staff and our office for being there, and as well as Claire Long and her entire staff. And we certainly want to give a shout out to Carla Thompson. I don't see her. I know that Wesley Hall and her are working good with our summer employment program, our summer youth program, but Carla has really stepped up, and we appreciate the great work that Carla is doing. I would be remiss to not recognize Vera Ransford. If you've never had a dwarf chicken sandwich, then you have never been on Belmont de Villa, and you really have not been a part of Pensacola. And so to get a blue dot and a chicken sandwich is great, and we were able to be a part Vera Ransford's homegoing. We were there at the ceremony to Calvin Ransford and his wife Evelyn, who works for the county and who's done about 40-plus years at the county. And so to Evelyn and her family, we commend and congratulate the life of her. And so I certainly want to thank Clark Partington Hart and Scott Remington for some of the things that they are doing. And I see two of his colleagues in the audience for the work that Clark Partington Hart is doing to enhance and promote our community well beyond working with government, but in community. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner May. Commissioner Underhill, you recognized?
Nothing for the good of the whole, thank you.
Nothing from me either. Wes? Okay, we're good to go. All right, moving forward, next, we have a presentation. Commissioner Barry, you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're the only presentation I get tonight, so please come on down. And I saw you get here earlier, and appreciate it. I know it's a long trip, and you have to account for traffic and everything, but thank you for coming down and being here with us this evening. I was sad to hear when you resigned from the committee, but I certainly understand and certainly appreciate the opportunity to provide some public service for you as my constituent. So thank you, Kathy. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to recognize Kathleen A. Wilkes for her service on the Disability Awareness, Escambia County Disability Awareness Committee for 4 years. And candidly, it was due to quite a bit of advocacy from Ms. Wilkes to start with that the committee got kind of stood up again and got active and engaged. I know she's been engaged with Commissioner Bender quite a bit over a period of time, working on the beach with some things. But on behalf of the Escambia County Board of County Commissioners, Kathleen A. Wilkes is hereby recognized for her dedicated services as the appointee by Stephen Berry, County Commissioner, District 5, to the Escambia County Disability Awareness Committee, June 7, 2018 to January 18, 2022. But thank you again, and I appreciate your friendship, and it's meant a lot over the years, and I hope hope to continue to serve you as well as I can. And you're please welcome to say some words, Kathy. Thank you.
I'll be back. That's all I can say. I'll find some way. I'll be back. But thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Absolutely, Kathy. Thank you.
Thank
Do we
you.
have a quick picture?
No. Not really.
No? Okay.
No.
All right. Yeah.
With you, come here.
Okay. All right.
That's one. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving forward in our agenda, we're at the proclamations. The chair would entertain a motion on the proclamations.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and second on the proclamations. Please vote. All right, that passes unanimously. One of these, we're ratifying something that was already presented, but we do have three in a row that we're going to be presenting this evening. The first one, Chips Kirschenfeld. You are recognized for the proclamation commending and congratulating Heather Gresham, an environmental enforcement officer in the Environmental Enforcement Division of the Natural Resources Management Department, on her selection as Employee of the Month.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
We're very pleased tonight to present this proclamation to Heather, who was selected as the Employee of the Month for April 2022. I'd like to just quickly read this proclamation. Whereas Escambia County has established an Employee of the Month program to recognize one employee to represent the various departments, and whereas Heather Gresham, an environmental enforcement officer in the Environmental Enforcement Division of the Natural Resources Department, is selected as Employee of the Month for April 2022 for the standards of excellence that she has displayed in the performance of her duties. And whereas Heather began her career with the county on July 11th, 2011, and provides excellent service to the citizens of Escambia County through her assigned duties. And whereas Heather performs site inspections and investigations to collect relevant field information and evidence related to potential environmental code violations, document findings, assesses conditions, and recommends appropriate action, performs needed follow-up and/or re-inspections. And whereas Heather conducts research on applicable records, policies, laws, and ordinances, she issues notices of violations and civil citations. She collaborates with the public, other agencies, and staff to obtain and provide information. She mediates conflicts and negotiates amicable resolutions. Furthermore, Heather prepares and presents cases for quasi-judicial proceedings and manages a caseload of potential and current violations. She prepares related status reports, attends meetings related to caseload. Whereas Heather acts as the alternate clerk of the court for special magistrate, administrative assistant, she has a positive impact on team members and citizens and all other agencies within and outside the county. She volunteers with numerous activities such as feeding the homeless, clothing drop-offs, and Pensacola Build Bikes for Kids at Christmas. Whereas Heather always carries herself in a professional manner, she exemplifies the character and conduct that all code enforcement officers should display and always has a professional appearance and great attitude. Heather is always the first to take on additional duties and assist anyone. She excels at citizen communication and has the ability to bring a calming presence to any situation. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida, commend and congratulate Heather Gresham on her selection as Employee of the Month for April 2022. Signed by Jeff Bergosh, Chairman, Douglas Underhill, Vice Chairman, Lumen J. May, Robert Bender, and Stephen Berry. Do you have a few words you'd like to say?
This is such a great honor to be Employee of the Month. When I came to environmental enforcement, it was the best decision I made for my career. I work with some awesome co-workers. I couldn't do my job without them. And this is such a great honor, and I appreciate this and each and every one of you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Heather, I want to personally thank you for the On Bikes and the bike building that you're doing. I bumped into you multiple times. I know many children in Brownsville and the work that I do have an opportunity to get a bike because of the work that you guys do. So I know Walker appreciates you and Representative Andrade. So I've seen you a couple of times,
Yeah.
and so it's always good to see you out there. So thank you for that
Thank you.
service.
Next up, Commissioner Bender is going to be recognized. We have some very special guests in the house tonight with a great accomplishment. He's going to be bringing the proclamation congratulating the Pensacola Christian College women's basketball team, the Lady Eagles, on winning the National Christian Collegiate Athletic Association's championship title. Congratulations. Yeah. Right on.
All right, good evening. First of all, ladies, congratulations. Great accomplishment, and I look forward to reading this and sharing what you all went through and how you did it with everybody here tonight. So I have this Escambia County proclamation. Whereas on Saturday, March 12th, 2022, Pensacola Christian College women's basketball team, the Lady Eagles, won their first NCCAA Division II championship by defeating Arlington Baptist 85-74 in Joplin, Missouri, under head coach Jared Sellers. And whereas, at the beginning of the 2021-2022 season, the Lady Eagles established 3 goals that they wanted to accomplish: winning 20-plus games, going to the regional tournament, and winning the national championship. And whereas the Lady Eagles finished their season with a 22-3 record and went to the South Regional Championship Tournament only to lose 83-74 to Bob Jones University. After losing this game, the Lady Eagles returned to Pensacola to practice for nearly 2 weeks before arriving at the national championship as the second-seeded team. With their no-quit mentality, they were able to accomplish the goals they set at the beginning of the season. And whereas, during the national championship game, 2 players stood out. Lee Phillips scored 18 points and made 6 rebounds, and Lauren Alvarez, scored 23 points and made 17 rebounds. Both ladies were named to the All-American team. Lorena Alvarez ended her dream season by receiving the game's MVP award and was named the NCCAA Division II Player of the Year. And whereas head coach Jared Sellers not only coached the Lady Eagles to their first national championship in the program's history, but he was also named the NCCAA Division II Coach of the Year. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida, hereby congratulates the Pensacola Christian College women's basketball team, the Lady Eagles, on winning the National Christian College Athletic Association's championship title. Board of County Commissioners, Escambia County, Florida, Jeff Bergosh, Chairman, District 1, Douglas Underhill, Vice Chairman, District 2, Lumen J. May, District 3, Robert Bender, District 4, Stephen Berry, District 5. Ladies, congratulations. Yeah, we'll get a picture. Come on in. Might have to do a second row here. Thank you.
I'll just say something quick. Thank you. I appreciate the recognition. The girls played great all year. Great group of young ladies. Finished the year at 22-3, and ultimately our goal was that national championship. So I appreciate their work and their effort. Our student body and administration really supporting us. And thank you for everything in this recognition. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, next up, Commissioner Bender is going to do another one right behind it. It's the proclamation proclaiming the month of April 2022 as Donate Life Month in Escambia County, and proclaiming Friday, April 22nd, 2022 as National Blue and Green Day, encouraging everyone to wear blue and green to help promote organ, eye, and tissue donation. And he has some special guests here. Commissioner Bender, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Luann. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. I have this Escambia County proclamation. Whereas one of the most meaningful gifts that one human being can bestow upon another is the gift of life. And whereas currently more than 100,000 men, women, and children are on the National Organ Transplant waiting list, with over 1,900 of them being children under 18, and more than 5,000 people waiting live in Florida. And whereas a new patient is added to the national patient waiting list for an organ transplant every 9 minutes, and an average of 17 people die every day waiting an organ transplant that has not come in time. And whereas one organ donor can save up to 8 lives, one tissue donor can save or enhance the lives of 100 people or more, and one eye donor can give sight to 2 people. And whereas in 2021, more than 20,400 transplants brought renewed life to patients and their families. And whereas everyone is a potential organ, eye, and tissue donor and can register their intent to save lives through organ and tissue donation at www.donatelifeflorida.org or on their driver's license. And whereas, as of March 2nd, 2022, the Florida Donor Registry has over 11,895,678 registered donors. And whereas National Donate Life Month began in 2003 to honor and celebrate the hundreds of thousands of donors and recipients whose lives have been touched by organ, eye, and tissue donation. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida, does hereby proclaim the month of April 2022 as Donate Life Month in Escambia County, and encourages all Florida residents to consider giving life through organ donation and to sign up on Florida's Organ and Tissue Donor Registry by visiting www.donatelifeflorida.org or to make the designation when renewing their driver's license or state identification card. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida does hereby proclaim Friday, April 22nd, 2022 as National Blue and Green Day and encourages everyone to wear blue and green to help promote organ, eye, and tissue donation. Board of County Commissioners, Escambia County, Florida, Jeff Bergosh, Chairman, District 1, Douglas Underhill, Vice Chairman, District 2, Lumen J. May, District 3, Robert Bender, District 4, Stephen Berry, District 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Escambia County. And I do want to give a big shout out to Mr. Scott Lunsford and his amazing staff for all that they do to help us to save lives, restore health, and give sight. As he said, that April is National Donate Life Month. It's a month we spread awareness and encourage people to register. So I just encourage everyone here, if you have not registered, to please consider it. Have the talk with your family so that they know what your wishes are. And I just want to introduce Terry Harrington. Terry's going to briefly just share with you how donation has impacted her life.
Sure. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Like I said, I am Terry Harrington. I'm a public school teacher here, but I want to tell you a little bit about how donation has affected me. Prior to 2004, organ donation was just that little box that you checked on the driver's license. You got the little heart and whatever. It was never personable. 2004, it became personable. My husband fell. He donated his heart, lungs, kidneys, pancreas, and liver to 4 individuals. He also donated tissue and helped 10 individuals. Then it became personable. He was honored with a fluorograph on the Donate Life parade float for the Tournament of Roses parade in 2019, and there I found the inspiration to become a living donor. So I donated my left kidney to Jeff. Jeff is a special connection because Jeff received also my husband's kidney and pancreas from 2004. Wow. So my kidney now lays right below my husband's kidney inside of Jeff, and Jeff is continuing to move on. Organ donation saves lives all the way across the board. Crosses gender, race, religion, anything. Anybody can donate, whether in life and whether in death. So if I can just inspire one person to be an organ donor, I've surpassed that goal. Thank you, and thank you to Anthony out front. I told him I'd give him a shout out.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner May.
While they're taking the picture and we get the opportunity to have the bully pulpit, but it's amazing that our invocation was bought by the Pastor Lonnie Wesley of the Greater Little Rock Baptist Church, as his wife is one who is awaiting a transplant, and how important it is. And so I want to just take this opportunity to thank these ladies, but to encourage our community to know that you can be a organ donor and it can change lives. And I've seen what has happened to the Greater Little Rock family. I've seen what has happened to the Wesley family. And so if we can continue to encourage our community, and I want to commit whatever resources I have here as a county to support you and to support, because I know how important it is. And the anxiety of hoping that you may get it and having the suitcase packed and being able to think that I'm going to get it and then I don't get it, or get there and it doesn't match. And so I've had firsthand experience of what it does to a family. So thank you, ladies. I certainly appreciate it. And Pastor Wesley, we're going to continue to pray for your family that it really happens. So thank you, ladies, so much.
Yes, thank you. All right, written communication. Commissioner Bender, you want to discuss this? I think we're going to...
Yes, we don't have any speakers.
No speakers on this item.
Given the fact that they're delinquent on taxes and just none of it smells right, I have no action to take tonight.
Okay. Sounds fair enough.
You dropping it?
We're just not going to do anything with it.
No action, hi.
All right, next up, did the clerk's office receive the proofs of publication for the public hearings on the agenda and the board's weekly meeting schedule?
Mr. Chairman, the clerk's office has received all proofs.
Chair would entertain a motion.
Waive the reading.
Second.
Okay, motion is second on waiving the reading. Please vote. Motion to waive the reading passes unanimously. Public-
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I did forget something, Commissioner Swarm, if I may have a second.
Yeah, please.
I did have the honor on Tuesday of attending the dedication of Deputy Donald Cook's portion of I-10. So I just wanted to recognize that. That was action that this board took in 2020 to send that to the legislator requesting that designation. And so on Tuesday, we were able to gather at the sheriff's station and with his family and Secretary Gaynor and make that recognition. So the signs are up. So the portion of interstate between 29 and Davis Highway is now the Deputy Don Cook stretch. So I just wanted to recognize that. And of course, thank you for the Sheriff's Department for their help in organizing the ceremony that day.
Yep. That was a great event. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bender. Now we're up to our public hearing, 531.
Mr. Chairman, do we have any speakers?
I have
signed up?
one speaker.
Okay.
Want to go ahead and hear from him?
Yeah, please.
Robert Duke. You're recognized. Good evening.
How you doing? My name is Robert Duke. I live at 2700 Nandor Avenue. I'm just here to answer any questions that y'all may have on my plat vacation.
Okay, gotcha. Commissioner Berry?
Mr. Chairman, I don't necessarily have any questions for Mr. Duke. Thank you.
You don't? Thank you.
If there's no comments or questions from my colleagues, I would move the 531 hearing, items A, B, C, and D.
Motion and second, please vote. .531 passes unanimously. We're at the 532. I don't see any speakers. I don't believe we have any speakers. No speakers. So the chair would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the 532, A, 1 through 4, and B.
All right, we've got a motion and a second on the 532. Please vote. All right, 532 passes unanimously. Moving forward now to the Clerk and Comptroller's report. Madam
Yes,
Clerk, you
sir.
recognized?
Sure, thank you. As reported this morning, we have the February investment report for your consideration and approval and 3 routine items of documents. The backup will be online. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Move the clerk's report.
Second.
Motion and second to move the clerk's report. Please vote. Clerk's report passes unanimously. We're up to the growth management report.
Yes,
Horace
sir.
Jones, you recognize.
Yes, sir. For tonight, we have rezoning case Z 2022-4 from medium density residential to high density mixed use. The planning board made a recommendation for approval.
Okay. All right, we have a speaker, Meredith Bush.
It's attorney.
Are you speaking on this item?
I am.
Okay.
We would just ask that you support the planning board's recommendation and approve the rezoning.
Okay.
And I'm here for any questions.
All right, no other speakers?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You might ask if Marshall Jenkins is in the audience, just because he did speak, and sometimes people that speak at planning board or those hearings think they're automatically signed up
Gotcha.
because they did speak there. I don't know
Mr.
if
Jenkins, is there a Marshall Jenkins in the audience today?
Okay,
I
thank you,
don't
Mr. Chairman. And, you know, I certainly would have heard from Mr. Jenkins, and understand he didn't necessarily agree with the planning board decision, but I would move the item in the affirmative, A and B, and,
All right,
well, I don't see him.
we have a motion
I
on.
do know what he looks like. I'm not sure what Mr. Jenkins looks like, but, but I do move the item in the affirmative to adopt the planning board's recommendation.
Okay, motion is second on item 1, A and B. Please vote. Item passes unanimously. We're at the 545.
545, adoption of amending the official zoning map.
No speakers.
Move the 545.
Motion and a second. Please vote. .545 passes unanimously. We're up to the 546. No speakers.
Small scale map amendment.
Thank you. Move the 546.
Motion and a second. No speakers. Please vote. All right, 546 passes unanimously. Action items?
Action item, final plat recommendation for McKenzie Ridge, Phase 1.
No speakers. Chair would entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move the item A through D.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Item passes unanimously. We're up to the consent agenda.
For May the 5th.
No speakers. Chair would entertain a motion.
All right. Move the consent agenda A through D.
Mr. Chairman, I will second it with a caveat
Okay.
to Chips and his staff. I certainly want to know the impact, the health impact of what a concrete crushing will do to the residents who are within 500 to 1,500 feet. And so when we have this public hearing, I would like to have that information on all studies and all information before we move forward. Residents have reached out in terms of wanting to have a town hall meeting, which Horace, I'm very open to doing. But I do want the information in terms of silica dust and the transfer of that dust from a site to another site in terms of how many feet is safe by OSHA rules. And so I would like to have all of that well beyond this public hearing. And if staff would respect that direction, Mr. Chairman, the second stays affirmative.
Any further discussion on that topic? Seeing none, please vote. All right, consent agenda passes unanimously. We're up to the county attorney's report. Wes Marino, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please note that CAR 116 was added to the agenda this afternoon. So there are 16 items on the technical public service consent agenda. Please make the following changes. Drop CAR 1-15 and hold CAR -11 and CAR -12 for speakers, please.
All right, and what was the addition that was added this afternoon?
CAR 116 is West Roberts, issuing a notice to proceed for the West Roberts Pond.
Okay, very good.
All right. Move the balance.
I'll second. Wes, we do have speakers on 1-2?
No, 1-1 and 1-11.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So we've got. 1-11 and 1-1. So we have a motion and a second on the balance. Any further discussion on it? Lumen, your light?
No, I'm fine, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
good? Okay. All right, please vote on the balance. All right, the balance passes unanimously. Wes? You want to describe your first item?
Mr. Chairman, I'll ask Chips Kirschfield to come forward.
Do we have a public speaker other than staff?
We've got two public speakers, but we'll hear from staff and I'll bring them up.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, Wes. Is anyone here from Dole Butler's family? Yeah, could y'all come up, please? See you. We have a resolution before you tonight for your review and approval to name a portion of the Jones Swamp Wetland Preserve Trail in memory of Doyle Butler. Doyle worked here at Escambia County for 22 years. And during that time, he was a mentor to many of us that worked in the Environmental Quality Division for him. This resolution that I can quickly go through. Whereas on May 3rd, 1936, Doyle Butler was born in Mississippi to Catherine Hutto and Ray Butler and moved to East Hill in Pensacola. In the 1950s, Doyle was a Pensacola Beach lifeguard. During his career in the private sector, Doyle was an entrepreneur with an interest in automobile sales, mobile home manufacturing, and real estate investment before he retired in the 1990s. Doyle then earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Resources and a master's degree in Public Administration at the University of West Florida, and he launched a second career in public service here with Escambia County, where he served as the division manager of the Environmental Quality Division. During his 22-year tenure with the county, Doyle contributed to countless environmental projects, such as developing the Mackey Island spoil site for the Escambia River dredging projects, numerous Bayou Chico restoration projects, acquisition of the Clark sand pits, and development of the Jones Swamp Wetland Preserve. In 2015, Doyle retired from his position with the county to allow time to spend more time with his family that's here today, and also fishing in the Gulf of Mexico, which he really loved. So whereas today we'd like your approval to name a portion of the Jones Swamp Wetland Preserve Trail as the Doyle Butler Memorial Trail, so it will serve as an enduring tribute to his many years of dedicated public service to Escambia County.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the family members for being here. We do have a couple of speakers, Chris Kerb and Keith Wilkins. Are you here to wave in support of this? You waving in support? All right. Keith Wilkins is waving in support. Chris is going to wave in support. Okay, the chair would entertain a motion on this.
I thought Keith was retired, but I'll move it if Keith stood up.
Thank you. I second the motion.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Yes,
Commissioner
Underhill. Yeah.
Chips, I have to say that, as I leave office in the not-too-distant future, the work that we've done in Jones Swamp and Jackson Creek, just buying up so much wetlands there is something that I think for generations we'll be proud of. And it's really noteworthy as we sit here and talk about this, that the work that you did during that time, I push the button, you do the hard work. We stand on the shoulders of giants, those who went before us that trained us how to do these things, and I do hope that the work that your department has done, in Jones Swamp and in Jackson Creek, are a good testament to the training that you received and to the vision that was laid out long before I was ever here. So. Thank you so much to the family for the time that he spent away. As we know up here, time spent away from your family doing those things, but he's made a lasting impact on the county. So it is a huge honor to be able to move this thing forward and put his name on his work.
Motion stands. Congratulations to the Butler family. Well deserved.
All right, please vote.
Just thank you. It was some of the best years of my father's life working with the county, and gave him great satisfaction. And in his final days, he had many fond memories of the people he worked with. And daily we are appreciative for everything that Pensacola has given our family and allowed my father to do to work with you.
Yes, ma'am, and it just passed unanimously, so congratulations.
Congratulations. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I can't wait to name some holding ponds after Chris Kerb in District 3.
That's right. That's right. All right, Wes, we're up to number 11? Yes, sir. All right. We do have a speaker on this item. Would you want to hear from him first before we take it? Not seeing any objections. Scott Kaufman? Okay, are you waving in support? Okay, all right. Motion? Motion and second, please vote. All right. The vacation is approved unanimously. Okay, we dropped 15, we added 16. That's it? We voted on that? Are we holding 16? Are we going to discuss that, or is that part of, okay, very good. Moving forward to the budget and finance?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 30 items on the budget finance consent agenda. Please make the following changes. Drop card 221. Hold card 222 for an update and speakers. Hold card 223 and hold card 226 for speakers.
Second.
Motion is second. Do any of the board members want to pull any of these? Any discussion on any other of the? Okay, we have all the speakers. We got all of them identified. Okay. All right, the chair would entertain, actually, we've got a motion, a second on the balance. Please vote on the balance. All right, the balance passes unanimously. So your first item?
Card 222, we want to have the speakers first.
222, all right.
Lake Charlene.
Yep. Okay, first up, Chris Kerb. You're waving in support, right, Chris? No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I do support this. I worked on this grant when I worked for you guys, and it's the more you pay, the more you delay. When I was working on this project, we had a hard time getting an easement from the Lake Charlene Homeowners Association, and the grant almost went back. And then we had Hurricane Sally, and the grant got reinstated. I'm glad it got reinstated. I wish it would have been a little bit sooner, and we could have got this project bid a little bit sooner. And then maybe the price wouldn't be $4 million that we got one bid on, which is double what the estimate was. So I tried to, when I was working for you guys, I was trying to push this project quicker, expedite it. I used my mouth a little bit too much. And I actually wanted to thank Debbie Bowers for her part in the Lord placing my feet along a better path to walk as technical advisor to flood defenders. So saw an email today that said that I have a vendetta against Escambia County for terminating my employee in November 2020. I don't have a vendetta. I actually thank Debbie for taking credit for me not working for you guys anymore, because I love doing what I'm doing now. I love helping people. I think I can help people more from the outside than from the inside of the machine, because the machine don't get oiled from the inside, it gets oiled from the outside. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Chris. Melissa Pino, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Burgash. Melissa Pino, 413 Southeast Boblets. 4 years I've been speaking against this project. It's literally been since 2018. And I empathize with Chris, because it's really hard to work on something and then see your fruits go to nothing. So I will give him that it might have been the best possible project he could have eked out of the pittance that was being afforded the drainage problems in Lake Charlene. I wasn't politicking in 2018 when I said it's a crap project during the election cycle. I wasn't politicking when all of the meetings took place about it, when I said every single time it's a crap project, it's not going to solve the problem. I wasn't politicking when I was on the rolls as a candidate before or after I scared Doug off the ticket. I wasn't politicking then when I said this was a crap project. And now that I'm no longer a candidate for District 2, I really hope that the people that are listening in Lake Charlene, why would all the people that have been saying over and over that this project is not sufficient, why would I still be politicking? What would I possibly be getting out of it? What would anyone who has spoken out of this project get out of it? There are two things that needs to happen to help alleviate the flooding problem in Lake Charlene. The first thing is the county needs to dredge the canal. The canal has not been dredged. The county is putting 9 water spouts full of sediment, and they've only got 1 sedimentation trap on all 9 sources of that water that the county is putting in there. Actually, 2A or 1A should be something's got to be done about that horrible French trench, that shoots through a couple of people's yards and travels across the street from 17th Street, coming across from Lago Vista, that then opens into huge flooding right down the street. But finally, the project that our commissioner did not want to sink dollars into is the project up north. How many times have we said, get that water going into...
Mel, can you hold, Mr. Chairman, can you just stop our time? So,
Thank
I mean,
you.
should Lake Charlene be, should it be dredged west? I mean, I've heard that multiple times. And so I'd like to get that answer because I know Mel has said that multiple times.
Not just me.
No, not just many people.
Thank
You're
you.
absolutely
Thank
right.
you, Commissioner May.
But, I mean, is that an option?
Commissioner, Lake Charlene itself is private. So there is an outfall that we did some work in, I forget the exact year, maybe the early 2000s, where we built an outfall coming through, and actually this project was going to be to expand and grow that outfall with some large-scale pipes coming down through there that would help the flow of the water coming out of Lake Charlene. We're going to get rid of the sluice gate, install a concrete weir at a set elevation. It would have dropped the lake by about 14 inches, and it was all designed and ready to go. We just kind of got sidetracked with some homeowner association issues and some easement issues.
So, so the issues are addressed by the pathway that we're taking now, is what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
That's
Go ahead,
all right.
Mel.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Thanks. I'll finish up quickly, and I'm sorry. I don't want to be on the opposite of this from Mr. Marino, but I don't believe the project's going to work. And one of the problems is it doesn't matter what you do to increase that, take away the sluice gate and increase the pipes. It's still going to get stopped up in the same place downstream because there ain't nothing going on to help that water get to Jones Swamp where it's supposed to get, and they don't maintain, and it's not the fault of the county, but there isn't the maintenance on the culvert that is needed. Do the project to the north, you save a bunch of neighborhoods at once. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pino. We have no further speakers.
We do have a staff update on this item.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Mr. Rob McCracken.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Just to be clear, this item that's on the agenda is a modification number 3 to the original contract. You may be aware of this. This is adding $61,000. That's what this is doing from Phase 1, which is a design phase, to Phase 2, which is a construction phase. The additional language that's in here is to clarify and to be transparent of what's transpiring as we're going along. So had a conversation, actually a great conversation with FDM today. Very encouraging. They also believe that, along with me, I believe that this project still has a way forward. I realize that the bid coming in high, it exceeds the grant funding, excuse me. That's not unheard of. So in our request for additional funding, it affected the benefit cost ratio. Well, we are providing additional information that wasn't requested before, so we're going to be allowed to provide that. So we're providing additional information. We're furthering these conversations to make sure that this project can move forward as it should. A lot of effort has gone into this project. It deserves everything I can give towards it, between staff, between FDM, between FEMA, the reviews, everything that's gone on. This project needs to move forward, and I'm going to do everything I can to keep it moving forward.
All right, thank you. Was there any other?
That's really it, other than just making sure that the board is aware that I am having conversations with FDM to make sure that this project continues to move forward.
earlier this morning, we had this discussion, and I might have had it during my staff review, but there was the real possibility that the amount of money that was put out already, the grant money, might be pulled back. Is that true?
Right, so when you don't have a qualifying benefit cost ratio.
Correct.
That has a tendency to be a killer, so.
So it's how many millions?
2.1.
Million?
Just north of that, 2.1 was the grant funding.
Okay. So tonight's action, we're just going to keep our commitment to this, right?
Correct.
And you're going to try and sell this to them, that it makes sense. Where's the additional if it doubled, where's the
So
next?
we are asking FDM for that money.
Okay, but if it
So-
doesn't come?
If it doesn't come, then I will explore other options. I'm not done.
Okay.
I'm not done.
Fair enough.
Commissioner,
By a long shot.
Rob did have a positive conversation with FDM this afternoon.
Okay, all right.
And that's kind of what he's alluding to. So we're going to provide that additional information. They seem to think they may have some additional funding.
All right.
Now, is it all going to cover, enough to cover all of it? We don't know.
We'll have to see.
But we're going to continue to push and see what we get.
And whatever happens, you'll bring it back to us.
Correct.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
So the action before us, though, is for a change order for 60,000?
61,000 to move from phase 1 to phase 2 that wasn't used in design.
And where is that money expected to come from?
That's
Okay.
reimbursable. That's part of the grant funding.
So, gentlemen, as everybody's aware, everybody knows the full story about this. The people of Lake Charlene they worked very hard to inform their homeowners, and they had an overwhelming vote in favor of this project, and that's how the easement came to us. It's a promise that I've made over the years, and I will just got an accounting of my LOST discretionary funds from accounting today. Thank you very much, Stefan. And I can tell you that I actually am very confident that a proper cost-benefit analysis will keep that state funding in play. And I also am pledging my discretionary fund to fill the gap.
Outstanding.
I'm sorry, so I move the item in the affirmative.
Okay, so we have a motion to move this item in the affirmative. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. All right, the item passes unanimously.
Thank you, gentlemen. And Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes, please.
A while back, you had a town hall just upstream here from this one, and it's important, as one of the ideas that staff had was to pull money away from that one to get this one done, which I was opposed to.
Well, thank you for that.
Because the way that we have to do the stormwater here is you start at Bayou Chico, which we did with the old Quarryfield Road Bridge, and you move upstream from there. You have to solve it as you go. So the bridle trail work would not actually be able to achieve its engineering goals without this one. And so, we've made some pretty good progress moving upstream. Once this is done, we move to Bridle Trail, then we get into Myrtle Grove, and before long, we're resolving things, as we get up into further up the creek.
Doug, does this have anything to do, is this tied into Rossi and Dunwoody? I've had several meetings with those people. Of course, it's in your district now after redistricting, but it's very close to Lake Charlene. Is that something that?
It is, and I think that, gosh, I wish, Chips, you'd be in a better position to answer that question. I don't want to oversell,
Staff, in fact, Mr. McCracken, can you come back up? Because he met with us out there. This is in the proximity of that, not far from it. So.
It jumps over basins there, so I'm not quite sure. I can't quite answer your question directly.
But those folks that we met with in their garage out there a couple of
Yes, sir.
times, is this going to benefit them at all in their issues that they're having? Or
Right,
is this?
so that being nearby, I think more of that is the private ponds. What it backs up to, the fact that there's swamped land there.
Yeah.
This
Two
is going to
separate.
provide quite a bit of benefit. What it provides to them, that particular, at Westlake, I believe, that particular area, because they're backed up to that state road, there's things that should have to happen there as well.
Right.
So for the moving parts that would be required for this, I would want to start in that neighborhood with the ponds, things like that. So this particular project, I can't tell you exactly what that benefit
Okay.
is going to be,
All right.
but it should provide some.
All right, I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. All right, we're up to 23, and we do have a couple of speakers on 23. This is the roundabout at Perdido Key. So we'll start out with our speakers. Charles Krupnick. This one, we had some cost overruns, and I'm pretty certain you're waving in support, right? But you're going to speak too.
Yes, sir.
All right, you're recognized.
Thank you. Charles Krupnick, 14500 River Road, Pensacola, and president of the Perdido Key Association. I wanted to speak again in favor of construction of the Perdido Key Drive Johnson Beach Road roundabout. It is unfortunate that the proposed cost has increased by $500,000, but I hope the Commission will continue to support this important infrastructure upgrade to Perdido Key. The Johnson Beach Road intersection provides the exit for the Perdido Key area of the Gulf Islands National Seashore, where perhaps 400 to 500 vehicles are at one time using park facilities, not to mention 40 vehicles at County Beach Access 1, large condominiums with over 500 units, and 60 or so private homes. Perdido Key Drive has rapid traffic in both directions, despite the 45-mile-per-hour speed limit. Exiting safely from Johnson Beach Road onto Perdido Key Drive may require considerable wait, even in less than peak traffic conditions. Last Sunday, on a busy but not peak tourist day, I waited several minutes to exit, but even then needed some courage and rapid acceleration to make a left turn and enter southbound traffic on Perdido Key Drive. A roundabout should improve traffic safety and with proper crosswalks also benefit pedestrians and cyclists crossing between the Johnson Beach Road path and Perdido Key multi-use path being constructed along Perdido Key Drive. As stated in the agenda item, attendees at the April 2021 informational meeting on the issue favored the roundabout over no action or a traffic signal, a result also reflected in the 2020 Perdido Key Property Owners Survey. Now, we appreciate very much the $850,000 from District 2 discretionary funds already allocated for the roundabout, and hope commissioners will find the additional funding needed to authorize construction.
Well, Commissioner Underhill is going to pay for that too. So
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Right, Doug?
You're
paying
right.
for it?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Were you done? You're done? You're good? Okay. All right. Next speaker, Maydeen.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. May Dean, 9735 Limpkin Lane. And I've had the honor of canvassing those neighborhoods on Johnson Beach Road, and it's really a life safety issue for them to have a traffic slowing roundabout there at that intersection. They really have a very difficult time getting out in the traffic, and it's essential to Perdido Key. We've had so many wrecks in that area, and people that have died in the curve. We need to slow down the traffic on Perdido Key Drive. And so I really wish we had done it in April, but, you know, if we want to do it in August, that's fine. And thank you for finding the, thank you for finding the funding. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Well, you can thank Commissioner Underhill. He's paying for it. So we appreciate it, Doug. All right. Any other speakers on this topic? All right. Chair would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, you know, as we said, this is something that it was very popular in the, you know, everything from the PKA survey to the town halls that I did to the town hall that you did. There's really no question that the majority prefers to see a roundabout there instead of a traffic light or a no-build option. I said that I promised that I'd do it. I didn't promise that I'd spend X number of dollars to do it. I wish it wasn't this much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But literally everything in the universe costs more now than it did 6 months ago. So for fear of, I mean, I don't think it'll ever be any cheaper than it is today. So I move the item in the affirmative with the additional funds coming from my discretionary funds.
All right. Do we have a second? Second. All right. Motion and second. Before we vote on this, Stephen Hall, you're here. Does Doug have enough money to pay for this? Just give me a yes or no, or he does. Okay. Just making sure, man. Check. Trust but verify, right? Okay. Please vote.
I mean, how much money do we have in our discretionary?
I know how much is in mine.
No, I mean, how much money is left in the discretionary? I mean, I get.
Well, let's vote first and then.
No, I want to know before
you vote.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'll get you.
Yeah.
I'll get you Stefan's email from earlier this morning if you want.
No, Stephen can answer for herself. I don't need you to give it to me. Stephen, you can come up and give me the answer.
Hi, Commissioner. Great question. So we are working on those. I've gotten D1 and D2 done, and I just was texting my budget manager, and I said we need to get 3, 4, and 5 done, and I would like that done by tomorrow. So we'll have it for you tomorrow.
All right. So Commissioner O'Neill is allotting his, how much does he have?
Oh, I didn't bring my computer up here.
As long as he has 1.35?
It's the amount that.
Okay.
I
That's how
provided.
much he's got?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, good. I'm gonna pull it out there. That's how much I got. How much I got up there. Yeah. I mean, whatever else I want, it'll be discretionary. I mean, yeah, that's fine. I'm good. If that's what you're gonna vote on, I mean, whenever I want something, I'll just have discretionary money to do it.
All right.
I mean,
Thank
when
you.
we say discretionary money is, slush fund money, but we have it as much as we want. That's interesting to me.
Well, I'll be honest, Commissioner May, I did.
No, well, I'm glad the clerk, we finally agreed on something. That's great. We have as much discretionary as we want.
I will say, I've been asking for a while how much was in mine, and
Nobody knows. I mean, yeah.
I have to give.
I asked the answer. I mean, it's an exact science. It's money. How much money you have in the bank? I have $5.
Yeah.
I have $50. You know what? Oh, no, I have whatever I want.
Well, Stephen.
So whenever a project comes, I'll just use my discretionary. That's
Commissioner
great.
May, if I recall on discretionary, and I've seen the spreadsheets over the years, so it should be pretty readily to your OMB, but you budget an amount for discretionary, and you also have a carryover provision. So you've got loss that's balanced, so it is tallied every year, and it should have a balance by district. So that should be given to you pretty quickly.
So all I wanted is the answer, Madam Clerk, before I vote on it. How much is it? Is it $2 million, $3 million, $3? That's all I'm asking
Your
before I make a
OMB,
vote. So
then you'll have
Doug,
to-
I'll have to take your answer since nobody knows.
Right. OMB will get that to you.
All right, so, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to answer the question. Including the $2.9 million that was moved over to Beach Haven and the $2 million that has been allocated but not yet spent on Jackson Street sidewalks, I have, according to the information that was just given by Stefan today, $3.3 million that takes me to the end of my time of service.
Does that include the roundabout, or that's after the roundabout?
That's after this action.
Okay.
That includes what I've already attributed to the roundabout.
Okay. And the 500?
But that 3.3 is before this 500,
Okay.
so it would take me down to 2.8, I believe.
Yep. All right, Commissioner Berry?
All right, what is, Stefan, what exactly is this utilizing of this project?
My understanding is that he was using a portion of his discretionary to complete the project, and I provided the commissioner with his available balance of discretionary to date.
Okay. But the item on the agenda today is eating up what figure, 1.3? What was said?
1.35 million.
Of discretion. The
Total
item on the
discretionary.
agenda
It's all
today
dis-
is eating up 1.35? Okay.
Correct, from District 2.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I may have to look at those numbers with you because we did some, I mean, and I see Dawn has stepped out, but I thought when we talked about the other issue, the Beach Haven issue, I did not remember that being a top number amount where this would leave that much, but I do recall that there's this much there, but I'm not sure it leaves, or at least the numbers that we had whenever we talked about Beach Haven 3 months ago, or whenever that was. But I do agree that I think there's this much there for sure. So I'm okay with it, but let's go back and
Absolutely,
look at it a
sure.
little bit more because
I mean,
the Beach Haven was a big chunk and some had been utilized part of that. And
Right, and there was Jackson Complete Streets, and there was one other.
And I'm good, Commissioner Berry, I'm not disputing what it is. I just want to know what it is, you know what I mean? And, that's.
So by tomorrow, Stefan, you're going to have them their
yeah,
balances? All right, cool. Anything further on the topic? Okay, we have a motion, a second, please vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, save.
Hasn't? Do we have a problem? Oh, we got cards. District 3, Lumen.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the project, Doug. I have a problem with not knowing, I have a problem with stewardship.
No.
When we talk about all this fiscal responsibility and we're voting on something, we don't know the exact dollar amount. That's not fiscal responsibility. So you know what? If I have to be the Democrat liberal that votes on, fiscal responsibility, I will. I can support it, Doug. I'd like to know the exact dollar amount. So that's the reality of it.
All right, okay. The vote is in, and we have a 4-1 vote in support with Commissioner May voting against. All right, next up. Item 26, purchase order for Surrey Windsong Drainage Improvement Project. We have 2 speakers. We want to hear from the speakers first. All right, Chris Kerb, you waving in support?
Now, Commissioner, you know I love to talk.
I know you do.
Please don't name this pond after me, Commissioner May.
I didn't hear you, Chris. What'd you say?
Please don't name this pond after me.
Oh, I mean, we're going to name it.
Maybe the one that, with all the amenities that we built across from the COC on the Delano project, that might be good.
You have to expire before we name it, but I'm certainly going to make it happen.
Yes, sir. I'm in support of this. Tommy's here. This is a long overdue project. I know the engineering firm that was selected. Engineering firms are selected on qualifications, not on bid. Actually, the CEI that did the 9 Mile Road project now works for Jacobs Engineering. So I think I think you got a good team on there. It went through a good selection process. One thing I did want to mention though is your master drainage basin fees. That's based off of drainage impact fees that you collect from developers based off impervious area. It's an ordinance that's been around since 1992, and it hadn't been increased since 1992. In 2005 or 15, you had the Stormwater Advisory Team that recommended that you incentivize low-impact design. Well, there's an easy way to do that. You raise your drainage impact fees, and you incentivize low-impact design by giving credits for using low-impact designs on your drainage impact fee. Real easy formula. I could figure it out for you, but just a suggestion. But I'm in support of this.
Okay, great, fantastic. Next up, Tommy Thomason, Tommy Thomason.
I don't have much to say other than I'm in support of this. And again, I want to thank, I know last time I was here, we didn't have anything on paper yet. Now we do, and I want to thank everybody in the county for their hard work on this project. And that's about it. Yeah. Thanks. Please support it.
Right on. All right, any further discussion on this topic? Chair would entertain a motion. Motion, okay, motion is second. Please vote. All right, that item passes unanimously. I appreciate staff moving that. I know that's been an issue over there for a while, and it's a new part of my district, so it's nice to get a project in the district. Good. Wait a minute, that last one is a new one in my district too. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that. All right, let's move forward here. Discussion, CAR 3. Rolling Hills Community Environmental Assessment. Chips, you want to give us a rundown? Oh, we do have speakers? Okay, we'll let him do this and then we'll bring the speakers up. Chips, do you want to wait for the speakers or do you want to go first?
What do you want to do? You want to wait for speakers? We can go ahead and hear from speakers if you'd like.
Okay. All right. Why don't we, Chips, why don't we go ahead and have the speakers come first, and then we'll give your, we got your PowerPoint earlier, so. Okay. All right. Chris Kerb? Waving in support? Okay, good. All right.
Yours is up there. That one's yours, I think. Now you got to put me on mine. Are you doing first? Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, Chip, so we're going to go ahead and, we're going to have the speakers first, and then we'll have you in just
Okay.
1 second. Just kind of, just hold tight for a sec. All right, Chris, you're recognized.
Well,
You
let
gonna
me
make it quick?
minimize that one.
Why do you have to, don't mess with that. No, just speak.
I have a presentation.
Oh, you have a presentation too?
Yes, sir.
All right.
If I can get it to come up. David? There it goes.
You got it? All right, here we go. All right.
Y'all have seen some of this before. Greater Rolling Hills Community Bayou Marcus Basin Main Channel and Tributary B. I kind of renamed it. The reason I renamed it is because of this next slide right here. How you go to the next slide? Oh, I got to do that. Oh, wrong one. Hey, David, it ain't working. I don't know why it ain't working right here. You help me out, David? Anyway, I'll go into it.
No, hang on. He's going to come fix it. He's got it. You got a little IT situation.
He's the man.
He is. All right, let me see if I can get there. Yeah, just go down, okay? When I put you back up.
I'll get into it while he's getting that put up there, but I have a map coming up here.
Okay.
Basically, this deals with 3 districts, District 1, 2, and 3. Rolling Hills is obviously in District 3, but it flows down through District 1, through Crescent Lake, underneath Michigan Avenue, across Mobile Highway, and then it goes right down here where it almost gets to Blue Angel, and you have the Windrose subdivision. D, she's been up here 10 times. Bayou Marcus Tributary B feeds into the main channel. Point being is if you attenuate stormwater and you do stormwater upgradient, which you're also doing in Muldoon Velma project, which is in design, then you reduce that flood stage going through that main channel, and you reduce flooding in Bayou Marcus Tributary B, which is the Windrose area. Lake Charlene Phase 2, Bridle Trail. I believe I brought that up last time too. And I won't get into that right now, but Melissa, the second phase is what's going to fix the rest of Lake Charlene area. It's called Bridle Trail. Whatever. This is a map of the Rolling Hills Greater Community. There's actually 5 county ponds with no positive outfall. That's what needs to be considered from a stormwater perspective. The Rolling Hills North End culvert capacity needs to be upgraded.
So, hold on, Chris. So is that true, Chips? There's no outfall for 5 ponds in the Rolling Hill Wedgewood area?
Yes, sir.
So, okay, well, hold on, Chris. Let me talk to Chips. So, I mean, is that something that needs a corrective action?
What we will be talking about later on this evening when we give our presentation is that part of the plan that we are asking for authorization to proceed on would be to update this 2007 drainage basin study, and update it and identify what projects need to be done to address the flooding issues in the rolling
And
hills.
Chip, and I'm good with that, but in my conversation with Chris, it's indicated to me that I don't need a study to tell me that I need an outfall and it's not operating at capacity. So do we need a study or do we need implementation? It's kind of my question from what, yeah, and so I mean, I'm asking the question because I'm listening to what Chris says to me. He says, you know, it's been that way forever. Now we're going to study it again to get the same result that we know that we need an outfall and we need something done for the drainage. And if that's the case, I'm very supportive of whatever you're doing, but I don't need a dang study. I need implementation of the project is what I need.
We need conceptual designs and we need the engineering work done to.
So I'm not
work out the
studying it, I'm
solution.
designing it
Correct.
with this.
Right.
So we recognize there is a problem, what Chris and his group has told me, and now we're designing. I'm not studying it to see whether or not I need it. You know that you need it, and you're designing it for construction. Is that what I'm to understand?
The funding that we're proposing tonight will update this 2007 Basin Management Plan, which is very outdated. It will update it, and it will identify those areas that have repetitive flooding problems. And we know Dr. Avant has maps that show that also.
Right.
And then we will have conceptual solutions to those drainage issues and those flooding issues.
And that's all I want. I mean, I hear from Calvin, I hear from Chris, I hear from constituents. It's the same repetitive problem that has existed long before I was elected 20, 30 years ago. I care less about a study. I care more about a plan of implementation. And, you know, I'll vote tonight to double the money for a plan. I'm not going to support any more studies because that's what I get with Calvin and all the town hall meetings meeting out there. Another study, another study, another study, and we know the problem. And if we agree, if you agree with Chris and his group and Calvin that we need outfalls, we need, you know, upgrades on the culverts, then let's figure out where is the money right now to implement the plan. That's all I mean, that's why I would ask you. I mean, I'm not the authority on it, but I'm certainly not going to continue to vote for a study if I know that there's a problem. And as you said, they studied it, and the study became outdated with no action plan. So I don't want another dang study that gets outdated and someone sits here 5 years from now and there was another study with no implementation. So that's kind of what, I'm just throwing it to you, Chip, and tell me what you need to put the plan in, and I'll see if I can convince 2 other people tonight to give me the money to take action rather than the study.
We need an action plan. I agree with you totally.
Action. We
And
need
that
action.
action plan will come back to you with what the price tag is to implement it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. What I don't want to do, Chips, and I will go and I would say this to you, I don't want to spend money on a study. I want to spend money on the plan that implements it. But if you're saying to me in your expertise that we got to study it again, and what I hear from Calvin, that he's going to come up here and tell me that they beat me up on, and Ms. Brown here, that we studied it, but we never, ever implemented it. And that may not be on your watch, but I am where I am. And so I don't want me and you to sit here from 2 years from now that there was a plan that we studied it without implementation. I'd rather come to my colleagues tonight, and whether it's ARPA funds, I don't care. We will get it. That neighborhood has endured so much, too much. I want to implement the plan tonight. So tell me it costs $1 million to do it, we'll get the $1 million. But if you're telling me we got to study it, to study something that we've already studied it, with the results that have told us the same thing that it told Commissioner Junior and Commissioner Young, and now they're telling me, another study tell Commissioner May that he's going to pass on to the next commissioner, I think that that's not good stewardship. So, but I'll take your expertise and I will rely on you telling me what to do. But I'm telling you in a public meeting, so Calvin, you can go back to Wedgewood and tell them that I want to implement the plan and not the study.
The problem is we don't have a plan. We need an action plan first, and then we'll do implementation.
All right, Chris, you got a minute and 4 seconds, starting now.
A minute and 4 seconds. Okay, I can make it real quick then. You got 5 ponds, you got a culvert, and the master drainage plan that was done in 2007 does not
But
go
Chris, what
that
he just
detailed.
told me, and I love the meetings, he says we don't have a plan. So we don't have a plan, correct?
You do not have a plan, as in
So
that
Chris, you
specific area.
worked here for years. Why didn't we have a plan? And we know that this has been systemic
I
for
don't know. I
30 or
didn't do
40
the master
years.
drainage plan in
So we hadn't had a
2007.
plan in 30 or 40 years. Of
We had
all the problems,
2007.
we didn't have a plan.
2007, there was a master drainage plan.
And it was not implemented, is what I'm hearing.
It didn't include the detailed parts of our 5 stormwater ponds without an outfall.
All right.
Because they look at a large scale on a master drainage plan.
All right, 51 seconds.
All right, brother.
We got a lot of speakers, man.
I'm going to go ahead and let somebody else speak. You can read my PowerPoint presentation, because, or you can call me. I can tell you all about it.
All right. Very good. Yeah, we'll Facebook you. All right, Dr. Calvin Avant, you're up next.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Part of what Mr. Crutchenfeld had spoke of, is some of the things we set forth in our environmental ad hoc committee, Environmental Justice Ad hoc Committee. And myself and Pastor Greer, we've done quite a bit of getting around. We've talked to Michelle Salzman, we talked to Senator Broxton, we've went down to Tallahassee and talked to FDEP, and everything that we've been asking for, they said that they're willing to take it to the state to get the finances to do it. You've got to ask for it. That was the bottom line. That's what we kept coming back with, that the county needs to come and ask us to take this to the state, and they would back us 100%. We're talking about stormwater management system as well as gravity sewer infrastructure. They were willing to.
What type of ask? Is it an appropriation ask? I mean, what type of ask are they saying that we can?
There's grant money available. There was grant money available, and when we spoke to everyone gave us the same identical statement that the county had to request for those funds to be.
And Kevin, and I want to get it because, we have this, and I have to represent Wedgewood. Is that an unsolicited proposal? Chips, are you aware of what he's saying, that how we can request these funds? Because this is something that's near and dear to my heart.
Yes, sir. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection has over $500 million that's been allocated to it by the legislature this session for resiliency projects. And it will be a grant program established later on this summer, and that money will be available July 1st, the beginning of the state's new fiscal year, and there will be a grant application process. And as Dr. Avance mentioned, the groundwork's been laid.
So we are applying for it.
We will, as soon as that opportunity arises after July 1st. Yes, sir.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes.
The only
Wait,
prop.
Dr. Avant, hang on one second. Go ahead.
Dr. Event, the $500 million that Tallahassee set aside for these kinds of projects is probably the most bipartisan thing that I've ever seen come out of Tallahassee in my lifetime. And it is a massive pot of money. And much like the BP oil spill money was, or is, I'm not sure if it still even exists, there is no better place for that money to be spent than Wedgewood. It's been, long overdue. And the point behind this action tonight is you cannot go to Tallahassee without a plan and expect to come home with dollars. The reality is this plan should have been in place and ready to go, so that the minute that they gavelled the session closed, we should have been the first ones in line with a project for Wedgewood. And not just a little project, not just a token project, but a comprehensive solution to Wedgewood. And I believe that, I hope and pray that what we've got in front of us is precisely that. And Chips, am I on the right track there? So I tell you what, I mean, you go to Tallahassee with an empty hat, you come home with an empty hat, you go with a plan and put a little bit of money behind it, I do believe that Representative Salzman and Senator Broxton are 100% honest when they tell you that we go with a plan, we'll come home with money.
All right.
And
There you go.
I'm not sure, when I read this, the environmental analysis, is that going to be a 3-year, it's going to take them 3 years to complete it?
The air monitoring part, the PM 2.5, will go on forever, but what we're asking is for funding for a full-time person, a scientist, to get that going for 3 years. Yeah.
So this has nothing to do with the analysis?
Right.
that,
Dr. Avent, can I ask your question in a different way? Hey, Chips, how long until we've got something we can take and go after that money?
We can do a solicitation and get that out on the street in a month or so. By July, we can have a plan ready to go.
By July, we could have a plan that we could take to Tallahassee and get ourselves in the front of the line on that $500 million.
That's correct.
That's what I like hearing.
All right, your time starts again. Go
Well,
ahead.
again, what with the work that we've done and going out and talking to those people, what I'm hearing now is what I need to hear. Because we're saying that we're ready to move. We can't wait. You know, the last time we met, Ms. LaFonetta Soul Woods stood here talking to you. She's dead. The people are dying out there, and we need to do something. Not yesterday. I mean, right away. We need to do something, and to get it moving. And what I've heard tonight, it would be excellent. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Next-
Calvin, there's nobody in Pensacola that was any closer friends to Lafayette Souls than me. We worked together for 20 years, so I'm committed to it. Lafayette and I were very dear friends.
All right, very good. Timothy Greer, you're up next.
Good afternoon. Hello. The corner phrase that I heard earlier on the news by the mayor of New York, he said, "You're not the choir, you're the composers." And what I'm hearing tonight, all of you guys who are sitting up there at the panel have to make a decision about what's happening in these communities. This community has been hurting for a long time. I don't know what it's taking, what's causing the issues. We talk about a plan, we talk about studies, but I really believe that your constituents, the people who voted you into these offices and these positions, would expect more from you, especially when people are dying. When we look at what's going on with Bayou Marcus or Marcus Bayou, everything is starting at the top in Wedgwood, and it's flowing downhill. We've had maps, we've shown you all of these different things. We've been doing study after study after study. Guys, you guys are smart. You know what needs to be done. I went down, I had a meeting at the Capitol with Michelle Salzman. I met with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. I've been getting calls from the Northwest Florida Waterways, people who are dealing with this stuff, and they're starting to see things too. It's starting to bring a lot of attention to Escambia County. We don't need that. We need action. Just like you said, I'm in agreement, we need a plan, and we need to get this happening. We need to make this start happening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna let Mr. Greer go. Mr. Greer, you can go to your seat, but let me just tell you, Ms. Brown's been in, Calvin has been here. And so I won't accept comments as it relates to Wedgwood, because there's been more progress in Wedgwood under the May administration than under the two previous administrations of 30 years. There's been more money spent in Wedgwood. Nobody even paid it any attention until I was elected. And that was because I had support from this board. And whether it be Underhill or whether it be Berry, we have spent more money in Wedgwood than any other neighborhood. The state did not pay any attention to Wedgwood until I did the pit tour and brought it forth. And we have brought more money and more resources to Wedgwood than any other neighborhood in Escambia County. Is there more work to be done? You're absolutely right. But I hang my hat on the work that we've done and the votes that I've taken in support of Wedgwood and the revenue that I put into that neighborhood. And so I do appreciate those, but I certainly think that my colleagues have been supportive. in the amount of money that I put in Wedgewood, and we're going to continue to do that. And I'm glad that our state partners and our federal partners are on board, but it was led from this dais and from this board. I appreciate you. I love you. But exactly, the record speaks for what we have done in Wedgewood, and I appreciate your comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, good, very good. Final speaker, Carrie Brown.
I'm Carrie Brown, and I'm a resident of Wedgewood, Rolling Hills community. First, let me say that it saddens me to stand here this evening for the first time since my friend, Lafanetta Soulswood, passed. And as you know, she was down here for years begging for assistance out there in Wedgewood. I want to thank you, Commissioner May, and all of the others for what you've done to help us. But as you said, there's much more work to be done. There's still things that we need to get done out there. I've noticed that it was a study that Mr. Crutchenfield presented. It was 3 years. As you said, Commissioner May, it's time to stop studying, and it's time to get the work done. Again, thank you, and you've said enough, and I just wanted to come up here and say thank you for what you've done. And I should omit my friend, the late Lafanetta Soulswoods.
Ms. Brown, Pastor Brown, thank you so much. And Brothers Judy Cook,
Yes.
Brothers Lafa, all our friends that we've lost since you started.
Yes.
My heart bleeds, and
Yes.
thank you for continuing to do what you do and advocating for
Thank
the
you.
next generation.
Thank you.
We certainly appreciate you and Calvin and Pastor. We appreciate what you're doing.
All right, we have no further speakers on this item. The chair would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the discussion item. A and B, I assume, yes? Yep, okay.
Second stands.
Yep, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yep, passes unanimously. Yep, go ahead, Doug.
Chips, we said July, June?
We'll be ready to submit grant applications to DEP for those resiliencies funds in July.
In July. Do we need to, will that application need to come before this board?
If there's no match, our grant policy doesn't require the application to come to the board.
Okay. Lumen?
Sir.
Would you be willing to join me in putting a stake in the ground last meeting in June, that they bring that before us?
Yes, sir.
As a complete and ready to go?
Yes, sir.
And that'll give us an opportunity to have a discussion about some matching money, which is, I realize it doesn't require it, but it does send a very strong message in Tallahassee when you put your own money where your mouth is. And so we may not be able to, I recognize that. I'm sure I'll be out of discretionary funds by then. But,
No, I want you to have some more now.
but I think that one of the things that, so, I mean, oftentimes we say, hey, we're going to do this, and we make promises that something's going to be done, and I'm absolutely 100% confident that you will. Otherwise, I wouldn't put you on the spot like this. But I think it's we can go ahead and say that, last meeting in June, we can put this on the map, that we're going to come back and we're going to talk about what that grant request is, and see if there's an opportunity to put some discretionary, or not discretionary, but wherever it might come from.
I mean, absolutely.
Okay.
And Commissioner Underhill, I do appreciate you have been consistent with your support for the citizens of Wedgewood. I mean, probably to some of your own adversities, and so I appreciate it, and absolutely I can support that.
If it's cost me anything, I don't know about it, because I don't talk to people who that would cost me something on.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's been.
Well, I don't care who don't like me either. I
Yeah,
mean, they can post what they want.
But so, yeah, I think that let's, if you would, please, Mr. Administrator, last meeting in June, go ahead and schedule that grant request as a discussion item.
Is that fair, Chip?
It's fair as long as the state can roll out the application process by then.
Well, they said that the senator and the reps are all on board, so I mean, I'm sure they'll help us out.
Well, it's the bureaucrats that do the process that is the part where it gets difficult. But even if they don't have a process in place, I mean, you've
We'll
been
be
doing this
ready.
for longer, I mean, since I was a kid, so, you know, you already know 90% of what needs to go into that, you know, so it's just cut and pasted into whatever format that they have. So even, I mean, nobody's going to hold you accountable if it's not ready yet because there wasn't a process in place, but the information and exactly what it is we're going to be going and asking for, that, I mean, we can do that, right?
Sure.
Outstanding.
And we already have a grant proposal submitted to EPA that would provide over $300,000 for the air quality monitoring. So we're already working on this. And thank you for your support. I appreciate that. And Commissioner Underhill, you're talking about match. Here's the match right here. You're putting it forward right already. Thank you.
And Chip, I want to thank you. And I think what citizens don't see is the many NACO meetings of EPA meetings when we had to wait out in the lobby for 3 or 4 hours just to meet with EPA, whether it be the Superfund site or whether it be Wedgwood, to get to this point where we are to get national attention. And so you had a lot to do with that, Chip. So I appreciate it. And I know we spent countless amount of hours, knocking on the doors of D.C. I know, on county dime and my own dime, I was in D.C. Fighting for Wedgwood. And certainly you helped open up some avenues and some doors to get our voice heard. So I do
As
appreciate
you have,
it.
Commissioner, thank you very much.
I appreciate you, Chip. Thanks so much.
Okay, next up, we've got the county attorney's report.
Yes, sir. There are 3 action items. I believe there are speakers on item 2.
Yep, we don't have any speakers on item 1, so you want to take that one, standalone?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion and second on 1. Please vote. All right, passes 4-0 with Commissioner Underhill off the dais. Okay, item 2, we have a number of speakers. We'll go ahead and hear from the speakers first. This is the letter. By the way, I amended the letter per our discussion. I submitted the backup, so. And first up is Melissa Pino.
Thank you, Chairman Burgash. Melissa Pino, 413 Southeast Boblets. Brandy Johnson is ill tonight, and Commissioner Bender, she's such a diehard. She went to your town hall because it was killing her, but she didn't go inside because she didn't want to get anybody sick. So that's why she was outside of the town hall, and it's killing her not to be down here. So I said, if you want to write up a statement, I would be honored to read her words, because this isn't just being here for her. I also want to give her a shout out. I have not seen such an amazing advocate in Escambia County. I mean, this woman has like the power of Diane Crummell, but the sweetness of like Dottie Dubison. She's just a good girl. I'm very impressed with her. The learning curve she had to go through to get this stuff done was amazing, and she's all over the panhandle. So she really deserves people's attention and respect. She certainly has mine, and I told Brandy that she'd see me with the big old thing printed out because I can't see off my phone, and then I forgot my printout and I forgot my glasses. So here we go. She says, first of all, I would like to thank all of you for voting to write a letter to the Public Service Commission on behalf of the residents you represent in Escambia County. Hopefully this will be the first step in finding a solution for the many people being affected by Florida Power and Light's takeover of our power company. Mr. Burgash's letter does an excellent job representing many of Escambia County residents' concerns. Thank you for writing such an amazing letter. I apologize for my absence, but unfortunately I have a terrible cold and would not want anyone to catch it. I did, however, want to thank you all for standing up on behalf of the people in each of your districts. Again, thank you, Brandy. I know you're probably watching out there for the work that you've done for all of us. And I just wanted to tag on a couple of my own comments. Commissioner Bender, I was so appreciative of your idea of the town hall. And I'm glad that Chairman Burgash did it as an and. I don't see why it's got to be an either or. It's an excellent idea. If they won't come down here for a town hall, you guys could do a town hall, and you'll be the only people who have done a town hall on this. At least give people a chance to explain to you what's going on with their bills. And I understand that there's an amount of tact that goes into these things, but I'm so grateful you wrote it. It's missing one word, audit. These people need to be audited because it looks like there's a good chance that there's some manipulation of meters going on. The Public Service Commission came out with a list of things that they would need to do to have a hearing. They're all on there, Commissioner Bender. So, yeah, we know they don't like to do hearings, but they kind of gave people the roadmap and said, well, it would have to be these things. And we all went, yeah, it's all those things. And Senator Broxton said, okay, I'll do something. And then he didn't. So thank you to this commission for doing something.
Right on. Thank you. Next up, Kevin Wade.
Kevin Wade, 413 Southeast Boblets. Thank you to the four of you for a really productive conversation on this morning and changing from a hearing to a town hall proposal. And just like Mel says, do both if you can. They definitely showed that they've got private jet, they can get to city council meeting, you know. That was an interesting moment. There are a lot of people that are screaming for help with this. And I love that the county has been able to go ahead and facilitate some of the help, but it seems like a landslide when people are looking at their bills right now. And FPL needs to be here. They need, so, and I love it when the four of you work together like that. It was a nice, good meeting.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, next up, Terry Goodwin.
Thank you, Commissioners and staff. My name is Terry Goodwin. I live at 8490 Olympia Road, 32514. And Mr. Bender is my commissioner, so thank you. Thank you so much for writing this letter in support of the residents you guys all support. It has been phenomenal to see the outreach that Brandy and her team, including Melissa, have accomplished in getting letters from City of Callaway, Destin, Santa Rosa County, City of Milton, City of Pensacola, Escambia County Commission. Now Century is inquiring and wants to do it too. So we have really extended our roots, and that just proves that we are a united Panhandle in a united effort to stop the actions of Florida Power and Light. I got online today and I read the reviews of NextEra and Florida Power and Light, and it was 0 of 5. That doesn't speak very highly for the companies that serve us. But I have a question to pose to you guys because I don't know the answer and I could not get hold of FPL. It deals with the franchise fee. I was told that the franchise fee was only applicable to city governments, not county municipalities. But here's what it says. The franchise charge, FPL competes with municipalities and county governments for the right to serve the electric customers. If the local government chooses, it can enter into a contract with FPL that enables the government to charge residents a contractual rate in exchange for its agreement to not form an electric utility for the whole term of the franchise. That's the first time I'd ever seen that written, but the part that kills me is FPL competes. Where is the competition? I don't see any. I'd love it if we did. So that's a question I'm posing to you. If you have an answer, I would love to hear it. If you don't have an answer, I can wait.
Yeah.
And
Well, Allison can weigh in on that. We have a
We do.
franchise fee, and
Yes, Escambia County does have franchise fees on both electric and natural gas in the unincorporated parts of Escambia County. That has been true for decades.
okay, and is it true that as long as we are entered into an agreement with that contract for the franchise fee, that the revenue comes back to the county, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Charges the customers, comes back to the county, supports your revenue a little bit, but that we can no longer try to do a feasibility study to see if we could tack on to North Escambia County's co-op or anybody else that might develop a co-op in this process?
I think they're very separate issues.
Okay.
I don't see those as necessarily connected. Escambia County does collect franchise fees for both electric and natural gas. Like I said, it is one of, many different revenue streams that does come into Escambia County.
I went to the town hall last night. Thank you, Commissioner Bender, for being there, and the state representative. I needed to be heard. That was the first time I'd ever spoken at a meeting, and I had a lot to say. And I apologize if I came off rude saying I'm not finished yet when the representative tried to stop me. But basically, it's this. We have a whole county and cities around us that surround us that are suffering at the hands of Florida Power and Light. No rhyme or reason. Kilowatt hours, my kilowatt hours jumped exponentially.
I hear you. Your time has expired.
Okay,
so-
I'm sorry, but thank you for letting me be
Yes,
heard. I appreciate it.
absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Final speaker on the topic, Rachel Celadano.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
I'm new to this platform, and I'm coming just to put in my testimony, my 2 cents. I've been receiving a bill for about 4 to 5 months now, and I understand this is in the final stages of turning in a letter of the concerns to actually take it to court. I understand. But this is just my added support and 2 cents. My bills have been coming back so high that they're coming back as the equivalent of my rent. And I have 3 children that I'm taking care of, and I'm it for them. And we need help. And I'm glad that you're all here and you're focusing on this. And it's a big deal for me. I had been passed around through their automated system over and over again for about a month until I finally got management to call me back with regards to my account and extension date and trying to make it for a different period of time. And they kept passing me back to an automated system. There is no human answering the phone. It's all pass you down, pass you down, pass you down, which is really cold when you're dealing with a lot of people that really need this service. And there is no substitute. There's no other companies that are in the city that we could change to a better rate, or someone else that can actually help you and be the human hand that can actually help out or listen. So I'm really happy that this is in this stage, and whatever support that I can do or help to provide, I would love to be a part of that. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your time. So I hope you guys can help. I appreciate all your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question for the
Commissioner
speaker?
Underhill? Yep.
Thank you. Ms. Celadano?
Yes, sir.
I have heard throughout this, ever since January, December timeframe, a number of people come and say that, hey, my bill's gone up. My bill personally has gone up, I think, about 40%.
Yes, sir.
And what I need, though, and what I've asked for and I'm not getting at all, is copies of bills year over year. So what was January of last year compared to January of this year that shows the consumption rate
Oh,
and
I
the
have that,
price?
sir. I do
Would you-
have that.
I would very much like to see that.
I also brought recent bills as well.
Yeah,
Recent bills as well, because they are like the same as my rent, and this is crazy.
Okay.
And then I've tried to ask them if they could please move it like at least 2 weeks to help me a little bit, and they're not even trying to do that. Some of the people that have answered the phone, they pass me on to the automation. And I'm like, wait a minute, I just would like to get some type of an extension. I would appreciate that.
Okay.
I have some of the bills with me now, sir, but can I get
Okay.
them to you tomorrow, if that's okay
Please
with
do,
you?
that would be awesome. They're just coming in the door in the blue Escambia County shirt is my aide, Jonathan Owens. If you could get with Jonathan, he walks in and here's his name. So if you would get with him, I very much would like to see those. That's the kind of data artifact that we need to be able
Okay.
to articulate the story properly.
I
So,
would love that. I would really
yeah,
love
so
to
current
share my
bills,
story.
But year over year, like January of last year to January of this year.
Yes, sir.
That's the comparative analysis that we really need to be able to articulate the argument.
Yes, sir, that would be great.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, we have no more speakers, so the chair would entertain a motion on sending this letter. Yeah, make the motion. All right. Motion and a second to send the letter. Any other discussion? Commissioner Underhill?
Yeah, so Jeff, I was, in support of sending the letter. I'm concerned about the content of the letter in that it doesn't really hit the points that, or a significant point that I believe it should have hit, and then the way that it hits some of them are concerning to me. The statement of referring to the number one as socially engineering. Yeah, probably so, maybe so, but better in a professional letter to really ask if this 1,000 kilowatt hour rule was taken into consideration, the impact that the imbalance impact that has, particularly to our poor, because the working poor live in homes that are not as insulated as yours and mine. Well, actually, mine's a 74. It's not insulated at all. But if you live in an older home with an electric strip heater, you are going to burn a lot more power. So the power bills of our lower income people are, they're burning over 1,000 kilowatts, and therefore they're getting punished by this. So I would be more inclined to ask, did they take into consideration, and can they demonstrate the study that shows how that policy has a much greater detrimental impact on our lower income folks. And then, item 5, we don't have any evidence to prove that point, and so we're almost making an accusation without having run that to ground. And
No, that was a person that came to me directly with that story, a person that I know. And
but if we validated it, if we did, there should be validation in the letter.
I mean, I believe what she told me. I don't believe that she would have told me her power was cut off.
No, as you said earlier in the meeting, it's much better to trust and verify, and
Sure.
I'd apply that to everybody. But so for that reason, it's just you're sending a tone here that does not actually set up a resolution on those problems. But it's certainly populist. But the other thing that it doesn't address is utilities' ability to utilize their income before profit for economic development things, which are, you've got power companies and you get ECUA sitting on, paying seats to sit on economic development commissions, and the citizens are paying for that. And the citizens could pay for that themselves if they wanted it, but they don't have a choice about paying for it because those monies are hidden in their utility bill.
Well, look, we went through the letter this morning at the review session. You weren't here. If you would have brought this at the review session, I would have made the changes. Commissioner Bender made some suggestions, and I added the changes. Now, I disagree with what you're saying, so maybe I wouldn't have, but you weren't here. You blew off the meeting, so, but thank you for your input. Just vote against it.
I don't go to meetings about meetings, but, I will be voting against it.
Just vote against it.
I felt like it was appropriate to share with my peers why I'll be voting against it.
No one cares.
Good intent.
Nobody cares, man.
Okay.
Just vote against it.
Good intent, but certainly missing the mark of professional service.
I don't agree with you, and we'll see what the vote says. Please vote. Passes 3-1 with Commissioner Underhill voting against it. All right, next up. Where are we at on this thing?
I need a vote on 1-3.
All right, we don't have any speakers. Second. All right, please vote.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't catch who made the, okay, thank you so much.
First, 2 seconds.
Okay, all right, it passes 4-1 with Commissioner Underhill voting no. Do you want to revote?
No need to revote. It was a miss.
Fat finger. We can revote if you need to. Let's just revote it. Yeah, let's revote it. That's fine. That way, you want the vote to be what you intended. Okay, we were revoting on item 3. And that passes unanimously this time. All right, Kat, for discussion, we do have speakers. Item 1, Melissa Pino.
Thank you, Melissa Pino, 413 Southeast Boblets. I was really, really heartened this morning by Commissioner Bender. Finally, you guys got to start pushing back on this stuff. So for anyone who cared or had a chance to see my statement about why I was leaving the D2 race, as Commissioner Underhill likes to say, I was a candidate without a constituency. I've been unaware of any candidate other than an incumbent that actually has a constituency. Perhaps Commissioner Underhill thought he had a constituency previous to becoming commissioner. I'm not sure. But
She's talking about the letter to Ron.
when I explained why I was leaving the race, it wasn't anything local. It has nothing to do with local politics whatsoever. It's what's going on in Tallahassee. It's terrifying. I may be crazy, but I'm not stupid. I'm not running a non-establishment MPA campaign when DeSantis is creating election police. And what's so disheartening to me is at some point it's like, why does it matter? Because if they carry on with this, you guys are going to be nothing but figureheads. They are stealing your home rule left and right, and these last 2 sessions have been particularly devastating. And I just really want to commend you because that was a hard thing to do. And I know that you have a lot of respect for facts decisions, but I also know that you're an insurance man and you see the screaming liability. And this is what they're trying to do. I mean, they want to pummel you guys with lawsuits. They want to bring lawsuits on municipalities and counties. That's what they're trying to do. And they will continue to keep their feet on your necks and your throats and try to choke out your ability to represent your constituents locally. And it stinks, because yeah, there probably will be blowback, but hopefully this is the first incremental pushback. You guys aren't alone. Like Commissioner Bender said today, there are a lot of people that are starting to be real disturbed about what's going on there. I can't even imagine what they're going to bring next session to rip away from you guys next. So maybe the more boards, start to push back, you guys will have growing voices with your partners in the state of Florida, can get it under control. So I have maximum respect for you bringing that today. Thank you.
All right, Robert, thanks for bringing it. Any further discussion? All right, the chair would entertain a motion on this letter.
I'll move it.
Motion and a second on the letter. Please vote. All right, that passes. Was that a mistake? No, okay. All right, that passes 4-1 with Commissioner Underhill voting no. All right, very good. Next up, we've got our recommendation concerning the county's broadband study. Commissioner Barry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the...
We do have some speakers, too. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, let me
wanna
hear
hear
from
them?
the speakers first.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Melissa Pino.
Thank you, and I won't need the 3 minutes for this. I was just disappointed to hear the admission at long last that, Magellan was a vendor selling their stuff, but I understand and I agree with Commissioner Barry. I want to thank Commissioner Barry in particular for hanging tough on leading the charge on this through a bunch of nonsense. This is one of the most important initiatives that this board is ever going to leave. Disappointed to hear in the South, in Navy Point, we finally just had to cancel Cox after 6 months of battling with them to give us anything that was, and we were paying $300 a month per house for their services between cable and high-speed internet, because they run the fiber to the node and then they run glorified coax cables down our alleys, and neighbors shoot at squirrels and put holes in the wall. I mean, we can't get any internet. Your constituents are not going to have that problem someday, so that's great. And just a word of caution. I've been saying for years, Chairman Burgash, you know this, that I have my doubts about Commissioner Underhill being a qualified technical advisor on any level, on whether it's anything having to do with IT, software, security, broadband, or anything. If he is going to continue to pontificate on these issues and act as the technical advisor in the board, I think it's high time that the board ask him what his qualifications are. He certainly has certifications.
Well, I don't think he's spoken to this. He wasn't at the review meeting.
Willie wasn't at the review meeting, but he's spoken to it in the past and online. And so on this or any other issue, if he's going to be advising you guys on what you should do, you
He
should,
doesn't, no, he doesn't advise me on anything.
well,
He talks a lot.
nonetheless, maybe it's time he provide his certification so that you guys can actually
ask
see
him.
what
Why-
is,
why don't
what
you
his
ask him?
areas of expertise actually are.
He's right here. Why don't you ask him?
Well, he won't answer me,
Okay.
so you guys need to ask him. What?
I don't need to ask him anything.
All right. Well, then maybe he doesn't want to blow hard on these issues unless he can cough up those certs and show you guys, what kind of an expert he is.
Well, we're talking about broadband. I guess it's kind of. All right, next speaker, David Delliman.
Good evening, David Delliman with Cox Communications.
And thank you for your patience.
No, certainly glad to be here this
You
evening.
sat through both meetings.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen on the dais, Escambia County citizens, we share your desire to bring high-quality, high-speed broadband service to the unserved and underserved areas of northern Escambia County. Yet, as we reviewed the extensive fiber build-out that was proposed by Magellan in their consulting report, we noticed some significant investment and priorities outside of those unserved and underserved areas. So rather than build out a county-wide fiber network that really only duplicates the connections available at various government offices, we would recommend that the commissioners consider redirecting those funds to help bring broadband to the rural areas of Escambia County where access is limited at best. The reality is that most Escambia County government offices already have options for multiple fiber providers available. As you know, the primary obstacle to get rural broadband is the cost of construction. By establishing a well-planned grant program and public-private partnership, the board could achieve its goals of serving residents quicker and more efficiently. Cox is partnering with the Department of Economic Opportunity and the Florida Internet and Television Association on statewide grant opportunities, and we'd be happy to work with the county on your local plans. In addition, this grant approach would make the private sector, not the county, responsible for ongoing maintenance, repairs, technical upgrades, and customer service issues related to broadband. This will ensure much less ongoing risk to the county. Since Cox is the largest internet provider in Escambia County, I want to make sure you have an accurate picture of the service we provide. First, know that our infrastructure currently covers 99% of all homes in the city of Pensacola, as well as most unincorporated areas up to 10 Mile Road. We currently provide services to many of the county facilities and government offices, as do multiple providers in the area. We're happy to partner with the county to explore network enhancements that may be needed to future-proof this connectivity and add redundancy for the county at government offices. However, building yet another fiber network on top of what already exists is not a good use of taxpayer dollars given all the other county priorities. Second, every home that is connected to Cox infrastructure locally has access to gigabit speeds. We're building and constantly optimizing our network and recently announced a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure investment over the next several years to build a 10 gig capable fiber-based network that will power the next generation of internet users. And third, you have to keep in mind the affordability piece. We offer deep discounts and even free services to low-income households. Combined with new federal subsidies that we're processing through the Affordable Connectivity Program, every qualifying low-income home in the Gulf Coast can access high-speed internet for free. Currently, around 30% of Escambia County households qualify for these free or discounted programs, and Cox processes these discounts for our customers. We'd love to continue to explore ways in which we can partner with you on rural broadband opportunities to provide connectivity to the unserved and unserved in Escambia County and increase awareness of the low-cost and free internet options that already exist. Thank you for your time
Mr.
this
Delliman,
evening.
thank you for your patience for being here. Was there anything else? We didn't want to rush you through. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
That's good for tonight. Thank you for your time.
Commissioner.
Dave, do you have any input, and I don't know if Bart's here, and if he is.
Yeah, he's in the back.
Right. Does he kind of concur with what you're saying? I'd love to hear from Bart, but in terms of, the rural broadband, I'm completely on board in supporting my colleague, as I would always do. But in terms of the urban core in the inner cities, do you also have recommendations of how we aggressively access that with the broadband?
Yeah, I don't think what you're looking at, particularly in your district, Commissioner, is an issue of accessibility to broadband. You have multiple providers with Cox and AT&T that are available across your district. I think we have probably more of an affordability issue, which is why I think we really need your help in partnering, getting the word out about these options that are out there, especially with the Affordable Connectivity Program that is out there that is really allowing potentially 30% of our residents in Escambia County to access free internet.
Look forward to working with you on it. Thanks, Dave.
Likewise.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Appreciate your time.
Stephen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the lengthy discussion this morning, and especially given the longer than I might have expected meeting so far tonight.
Much
Based on
longer than I thought.
well, based on this morning, I thought we would work right through the agenda very quickly. So I'm especially glad that we had a lengthy discussion this morning. I do feel like, I think taking action tonight, with a handful of, a handful of movements by the board is certainly preferable. I think very, very quickly, Commissioner May, the southern core, the core part of the county that we talked about quite a bit this morning, that's not going to be, not going to be a long time coming back. I do certainly expect to bring forward the same type of discussion with hopefully the same type of action, in 2 weeks. And, I commit to y'all if you're supportive this evening, I'll work very hard with, work very hard with Kristen and Bart and Jeff Lovingood to try to have something that comes back to our board to get out very quickly for this northern part of the county, project, the rural broadband aspect. And, Mr. Chairman, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of put out there what I'm hoping to do, and then willing to engage whatever discussions we might have, in addition to what we talked about this morning. So I think want to accept the work product. I don't have any issue with the work product being done. There's a lot of data and analysis in there that's going to be helpful, that's going to be effective, and it checks a lot of the boxes. Much like Chips was talking about with what sounds like the DEP program this summer. I think that discussion kind of paralleled some of our discussion this morning with July 1 timeframe. They're still drafting policies, and actually it seems a foregone conclusion that DEO has that first $400 million, but upon some more information, it's certainly expected to be signed by the governor, but the dollars aren't allocated until it's signed. So certainly expect that, but do expect drafts of the grant application to be very soon. So want to accept the work product. It's going to be the core part, I think, as we go forward, even if it's not going to be the exact plan that we try to implement. I mean, I think the basis and the majority of what's there has a lot of utility for the northern project and the southern project. So accept the work product. I do want to specifically separate the county into, and look at this as kind of a two-part project when we look at Escambia County, with that line of delineation being approximately 10-mile road, and allocate, kind of sub-allocate of the allocation that we've made toward the whole project of $22 million, ask that $10 million be set aside right now for this as part of what's going to get put into the RFP that the county's allocated $10 million of our ARPA funds. And then, the one part of the design that, I think it had to be, I understand why it was included. I think it was based on just the expense part of it. How can a county, possibly make this work if we're building it out? But I don't want the possible options that we get back from the private sector, from our kind of public-private partnership, partner, whatever you want to call it, partner vendor, to include the wireless access towers. I do want them being required to get fiber to the homes, all the way, not just to a node and then through the wireless access points. So, with that small change, I hope that we could move forward with those things. And like I said, I'll work with Kristen and Bart here over the next couple of weeks and try to bring something back very, very quickly that we can put out on the street. And, there were some questions asked this morning. I don't necessarily have all the answers, but what I know in this instance, the public portion, the public responsibility, or the public part of this project, we're allocating a lot of money. We're allocating a lot of money, very high expectation of a successful grant application with the state. Put our money with that money, that's a substantial subsidy for this capital project. So I'm expecting these industry leading companies and experts to to solve some of those problems. I think that they, at least based on my discussions prior to today, I think they understand what our gaps are. They understand what our needs are, and I think this is some clear direction going forward with the rural portion of it. And I'm excited to see what the responses are. And I do think a lot of their work is done. They've looked at it, and and like I mentioned this morning, the FCC has provided a lot of that data, and so between what we've done with our consultant and checking our boxes, plus the FCC data that exists, state DEO, now that it is stood up as the with the broadband department, is also compiling a lot of data, and hopefully after we take the action, there's going to be one thing that I'm going to ask that the administrator helped me with as far as getting a press release out, asking residents to. We can put a link in the press release, but it's going to be a speed test on the DEO's website, and it's just going to be it's just a hyperlink. I did it last night from home. 30 seconds, 45 seconds, just on my phone. We don't have a physical computer at home, but, just on my phone. And the more residents that we have that will take that speed test through DEO, they're logging all of that data, and that's all becoming part of a master information on their website. And they have certainly asked that as much as we can try to get that word out. And so we may, over the next couple of weeks, actually try to maybe put a couple of press releases out asking citizens to take that speed test that does log directly to DEO.
Can I ask you something?
Absolutely.
Steve, so I've got 4 notes here: accept Magellan project, turn our project into essentially a 2-part project, with the northern part being the 10-mile road and north. That's the demarcation line. And then $10 million tonight to allocate from the 22 for that area north of 10 Mile Road for the northern
Right.
part, and then cable directly to the home and not using wireless mounted point. Is that essentially?
Yeah, and I did try to hit on those points this morning as well, and I think that kind of covered the compass of the 45-minute conversation, or
I just wanted to make sure I understood. And then in 2 weeks, you would bring back the southern portion. That's.
I would expect so, and a lot of that is based on the, like I said, the conversation with DOT yesterday, where they provided that feedback about the co-location possibility.
Right.
I do still think that one of the ways we have a successful application with DEO, whether it's this rural broadband program or their capital investment program that they also have stood up, that's not doesn't have an application yet either, but there's other programs there, and there's going to be other programs come through, but the private sector investment is going to be something that's going to be required to have these things work. So I'm excited to see what our potential partners are going to put together, what they have in mind, what they have, what their industry people think will work best. It's certainly competitive, so I'm excited to see those responses. And based on what kind of overall estimates are in the area, it's going to include capital investment. It's just, at least we're putting in a fixed amount, and once the project's done, the project's done.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever happens with the markets, whatever happens with subscriberships and those things, that's we've delivered the access to it, the availability to it, and that's our part. Now it's there. I do think one of the things Mr. Delleman mentioned that I didn't necessarily know that 30% of our constituents would qualify on that free side. I don't know what the utilization rate is of that 30% towards getting that free internet, but I think it's I think that might pose one of the opportunities, Lumen, that we have up here to try to get that word out. I would guess the penetration rate of utilization for that 30% of people that are eligible is probably a relatively small fraction that are aware. I don't know the number, but I'm sure it's I would venture a guess it's a relatively small number, and that's a big deal, because that's as much. I mean, if you don't subscribe to it because you don't think you can afford it, that's no different than not having access to it because you still don't have it. Especially if you're eligible. I mean, it's something. Even 5 years ago, I had no inclination that I'd possibly be able to deliver to my constituents. I had no solution. I had really no possible solution at that time. And even moving forward as quickly as possible, based on conversations with timelines for build-outs, from the time we award, select a partner, 14 months, 16 months, 18 months, 20 months. I mean, those would be good timelines. Those would be good delivery rates. I'm going to guess with that low utilization rate, maybe on the access to the free side, we have thousands of residents currently in Escambia County that aren't getting it because they don't think they can afford it, when in fact they can get it for free and they don't have to wait 20 months or 24 months to actually have it delivered. If we can get the word to them, then they can have it next week. So if we, in addition to the press release asking folks to take the speed test to show our, to kind of show our partnership and our engagement with DEO to be good partners there, I think something getting out about the access for the affordable connection program would be extremely important, and that's something we could shoot out to. And if you just double the utilization rate, you're going to have a large number of people that throughout the county that now have access to it that didn't have it before, and they don't have to wait for deployment of a project. They just needed to know the information. And I'll try to answer folks' questions as well as I can.
No, thank you, Commissioner Berry, and thank Mr. Delamey. I mean, and I would, and I appreciate all your efforts, Commissioner Berry, to take this type of leadership. And I certainly admit that, technology is not my strong point. I don't really even do emails or text messages. I mean, I still have a phone in my house. And so, the information that Mr. Delamey gave, I mean, I would ask, Director Sider, do we really have access to all of our community centers? I mean, if there is access and it's affordability, then obviously we got to address that, and hopefully we can partner with Cox or whoever it is. But I do know that there are some technical breakdowns that I hear sometimes in our jail and sometimes in our community center, and I don't know if that's in-house, and Bart probably could educate us, and Bart, I would appreciate that. But, and Stephen, in terminating the contract, which I'm supportive of how you move to the north end. I don't have a dollar knowledge. I've relied, a lot on Commissioner Underhill for technology in the last couple of years, because I'm not a cyber guy or anything like that. I'm a construction guy, or maybe a community center coach or something. I mean, that's kind of my expertise. But I did talk to some friends who are and others who sit on Board of County Commissioners throughout the country, actually 2 or 3 people today, and talking about the Magellan and certainly this type of lift. And typically, and Steve, I'm good. They say that rating reports are great, but typically when you expend this amount of taxpayers' dollars, that the consultant would come and do not only the written presentation, but an oral presentation to the recipient. Rather, I guess it'd be staff of the board, so the citizens who are investing this type of money would hear exactly where we're going. And so I think what I heard from Commissioner Bender and from yourself today, that we're satisfied with the study, which, I have no reason to argue that, but I certainly would expect, for me, if we hired consultants, whether it's to build a jail, or, if it's a, $32 million, $22 million lift of construction services, and, a couple $100,000 worth of consultants, that people would at least present their findings in a layman's term, where not only the technical people would understand, but the citizens who are actually, the owners of the product would be able to hear, in some layman terms. So I don't know if I'm off track, but that was a recommendation that was given to me by some IT people, that you would have expected that this group would have at least come to the dais, explain their results, and would take questions from a layperson like myself to answer questions, rather than just a sophisticated Word document that's being presented, maybe to staff and waiting on, and it's great. I'm sure staff would decipher all of that terminology for me, but that's not to the benefit of those that I represent nor you represent on the north end. And so I didn't know if this concludes and terminates it, or was a part of the RFQ, RFP, a requirement for them to come and present the information. And so with those, I'll give it to you and then give it to Director Siders to answer my other questions. So thank you, Commissioner Berry.
I'm not sure Bart's welcome to answer that. I'm sure that they would be happy to come and, deliver or present. I would presume that. I mean, I haven't spoken to them, but I would presume that they have, or that they would be willing to do that. A big part of the study ends up being the business plan and those things, and that's.
It's up to you. I mean, I'm following
Yeah,
the lead.
I mean, it's.
Not yet. There's not a motion on the floor.
Okay, yeah, that's what. So to answer a couple of your questions, Commissioner May, so yes, part of their project plan was to do that presentation. They would have came in, we were actually working on the presentation before this item came before the board. And so that they would have presented, just like they did the feasibility study, go through it in detail with everybody, have show you the diagram, show you exactly where the route would have ran, where we could have went all the way down to the handhole level if you wanted to go to that level. And then they would explain out the business plan, the financial plan, and then the next steps that you would want to take. They are also, part of their plan would be to do an RFP for us. That's one of the things that's in there. Part of their fee that we're paying is for them to actually help write that RFP. We've already got the workings of that in the back of
So if they don't write the RFP, is there a change order deduct if they don't provide that service?
So part of it's already in the plan that you've got. The 103 pages that's in there is part of that back document is the beginnings of the RFP, and then anything that we wanted to tweak based on the feedback that they received from the commissioners. They would tweak that for us to help us take that out to the market to get the bid.
But if we're not, if we're terminating as Commissioner Berry has represented, I mean, will there be a monetary change order deduct because they're not performing that service any longer?
I will have to ask them. I will tell you that they have given us a lot of services above and beyond what they already did, because when we originally started, we were looking at about 98 sites that they were going to engineer for us. We're up to 127 sites that they ended up engineering, and an additional 30 miles that we added by adding the sheriff's offices and tax collector, property appraiser, and all those into that. So they really gave us that out of the goodness of their heart. That was part of that would have probably cost us another $100,000 had we went back and asked them for a change order. But they said that, hey, we've been a good partner, and they
So
want
in
to continue
terms of the
to partner.
governmental buildings, Bart, Director Sanders, is it necessary, or are we already up to speed with what we need in terms of broadband at county buildings and sheriff buildings? And because I get the complaints on cell phone usage in the jail just because I have so many people that work there that I represent. So is it a necessary study for these governmental buildings?
Two different things. All right. So when you look at all of our buildings, every one of our buildings has fiber in it, and we're actually using a leased contract, kind of like the model we're looking at going to. We have leased fiber from Unity Fiber. They have fiber that goes all the way to Pensacola Beach, all the way up to Century. One of the things that I mentioned to Commissioner Berry today, I mean, if we're going to a leased model and we've got vendors that are here tonight that are willing to partner with those vendors, they could start putting fiber to the distribution homes today if they were willing to partner with Unity Fiber. The challenge is most of the vendors don't want to partner with another vendor. They want to own the capital. And I've had discussions with two of the vendors.
What would be the hesitation in partnering from the vendors?
And I'd have to ask them from the business model. I've been told that it's about the capital. They need they want to own the capital, and they don't want another person to own the capital that they are now. Because you got to think they would have to require the other company to be on an SLA, to get their things, and it's their customer at the end of the day in their name. If you have Cox's or Charter or whoever it is out there, their service, and your service is down, they're not going to blame Unity Fiber. They're going to blame Cox or whoever it is. And so I get their point on that. But that is one way to get, if we want a true partnership, we can get there's fiber already in the ground that's there. So if they're willing to do that, we could go to market a lot faster if they're willing to partner with a vendor like them. It doesn't have to be Unity.
Is that a part of the conversation with them?
I definitely
to get to
think we do. I mentioned that to Commissioner Berry today, that, when we do go out for an RFP, I would go out for several things. I think we ought to go out for an RFP and say, all right, we're still in it to build. If nobody gives us the right price point, we build it ourselves. And then we make the revenue, because we're going to lease back fiber to somebody else. That's one option. Another option is say, okay, every vendor out there, here's our plan. This is what we want. Bring us back a price point, so that then when you guys look at that, you've got all the options on the table of what's there and what's the best for the community. To your other question about, so all of our community centers, all of the jail, everywhere, we've got great fiber all the way across that. And we're ringed up in some of those spots. The problem you're having with the cell phone is the building. So if you've got a building that has got very thick walls or aluminum roofs, or like the jail that's got, it's all rebar and concrete, you lose your cell service. So it's not the Wi-Fi that's your problem inside your building, it's the cell service inside the building. So for the jail, you all, the commissioners approved, I think it was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, the Spider Cloud in the jail. So that's going to basically put an extender system for the cell service in there, so that it will magnify the signal throughout the entire building. Out at the road prison, there is no good coverage there, so we've got extender service there as well. So we can do that. So if we're having problems at, I'm assuming you're talking about Brownsville, if Brownsville's having that, we just need to, now that I know that, we'll reach out to Verizon and get some type of Verizon extender, which will boost the signal inside that building. So that's what we'll do. But all of our community centers have great Wi-Fi. We went through for 40 of them, went to inside and outside into the parking lots for all of that.
Because we spent money on the community
Yes, sir.
centers in the parks.
Yeah, we're very, if there's a WAP that's down, we need to go replace it. But we go out and visit the sites on a pretty regular basis to make sure everything's working. Of course, we always hear from somebody if something's not working. But yeah, all of our sites are good today. What this would do is offset the cost. So, we spend about $675,000, $680,000 a year. If we built it ourselves, you don't have to pay that $680,000 a year. There's also a revenue share part in that. So we could actually lease dark fiber to an ISP or something like that, or multiple places, and make anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million a year off of the fiber if we put it in ourselves. Again, not saying that's what we do, but that is an option if we put it in ourselves. So those are all options that could be on the table with the proper RFP written, which I think is what we ought to do as we go forward.
Yeah, and Bart, I'm just a practical guy. I don't know a lot about technology, but I know WBQP was trying to do a television remote, and they said the Wi-Fi and the connectivity in Brownsville caused them not to be able to do their TV show, and it was not wired up right. Whatever that means.
Just let me, who can I work with over there?
Vernon Watson is the guy
Okay,
that owns
I'll reach out to him
WBQP.
tomorrow and we'll figure out what's going on.
Commissioner Underhill?
Thanks. Director Siders, you mentioned that if we owned our own fiber, we might be able to make $500,000 or $1 million a year off of leasing it.
Yes, sir.
To be able to make that statement, you must know what it would cost us to operate it.
Yes, sir.
How many FTE are you talking about bringing on board to run that?
We would need 4 FTEs to run it for Escambia County.
You'd be able to build a fiber system that could be run by 4 FTE.
We wouldn't build it. We'd contract it out to be built, but then
you'd
to
be able to
maintain it, we
operate
do. Yes, sir. We can operate it with 4
4
FTEs. Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you tracking what's going on in the industry in terms of what broadband to the home is doing, which just what trends are in the industry?
We are, yeah. With Magellan's help, they're doing it, thousands a day. Yeah.
All right. So what's it's particularly in reference to what Commissioner Berry said about running fiber all the way straight to get it to the homes.
Yes, sir.
Would you consider that to be in keeping with the direction that the industry is going right now?
Right now, that's pretty much what we're seeing. That's what just about every one of your, all your major carriers are doing. It really depends on what you're trying to get. If you're wanting to get gig to the home, you pretty much have to run fiber. And so that's where most vendors are going today.
Okay, so the trend toward satellite, you're not seeing that as being something that is going to have a major impact on the
not if you want low. The problem is bandwidth. So a satellite, you're just not going to get big gig bandwidth. And so that's the cost.
Yeah, and
And
is gig bandwidth the goal here, or because you don't need gig bandwidth to do, homeschooling?
You're
or-
right. But most people, that's what they're building out, because that's where it's headed. Because everything you do, I mean, the more Zoom, you think about it, when the pandemic hit and everybody's at home trying to work, you got 4 kids at home trying to do homework, doing Zoom meetings with the teachers. If you had, I know at my house, we had to go from 500 meg, because I had 2 kids and my wife trying to work at the house. We had to go from 500 meg to a gig just because it was all bottoming out. So,
Okay. You familiar with what that is?
oh yeah, Wi-Fi. Oh yes, sir. I'm very familiar with that.
So, like, it's $45 a month.
$45 a month. That's right. Oh yeah.
And at our farm up in Davisville, we're able to, I run teams. My
Oh,
family
yeah.
is what you would call a data intensive family.
Yep.
My wife works from home. Mr. Chairman, if you would please. Thank you. I can watch a movie on all 3 of the devices in front of me with this
That's
right
right.
here. It's $45.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the trending direction.
Right.
The direction, the idea of, we'll spend an enormous amount of money putting in, and certainly I'm sure the contractors would love putting in fiber.
That's right.
If you're capable of running a fiber network of that level that we're describing here with 4 FTE, quite frankly, you will have completely reinvented the industry.
Okay.
The point is that the technology exists for those of us who literally live off the grid north
Right.
of McDavid. Believe it or not, there is stuff up north of McDavid. To be able to, my wife works from home, so the data flow is satisfactory to run her business, run our entertainment, and everything else.
Right.
So I'm struggling with why that would be important.
I understand.
But besides, so clearly, I haven't supported this since we started. It's absolutely the wrong direction, and $22 million worth of infrastructure in North
Right.
County, there's a lot of other things that are needed up there. But to be understanding correctly, that if I'm not mistaken, the motion as it's being formulated now would actually break a contract that we currently have prior to completion. Is that correct?
No, their contract was only to create the design. So they are done with that. And then the only thing they haven't done to finish out their work is to do the actual presentation to the board.
Okay. So let's go back to the question about whether or not we'd be getting any money back. Because if we're basically saying, hey, don't come give us the presentation.
Right.
we're not
Right.
getting money back on that
I'm sorry,
contract.
that and the RFP, that they would help us write the RFP. So those are the 2 things that they have left to do
And if
on their
we
plate.
unilaterally choose not to do that,
Right.
let's be honest, we're not going to ask them to give some money back.
I don't think we can. I really don't.
Okay,
You're right. That's exactly
That's
right.
the more solid answer.
What's
That's
the
right.
value of the RFP?
The value
The
of an
monetary
RFP.
value of it. There has to be a schedule of values for the RFP. In the scope of work, there has to be a value for
So
the design, the
they're
narrative.
giving us a pretty much what they do everywhere, and then we're going to tweak it to what we want to do. So like in our instance, so most of what they're doing is most of the people they're serving right now, they're actually doing their own build. All right, so that would probably be, we could use that portion of the RFP and say, okay, we're going to do our own build. But if we chose to say, okay, we want to do a private partnership, or we're asking them, then that'll be an addition to what we've already got. So they'll have to rewrite that
Are
piece
you
of
letting
it.
them write the RFP, Stephen, or are you working with our procurement to write the RFP?
Well, I certainly have tried to stay away from those things, as that's not really
Yeah, we
our
don't do
thing.
that.
So,
Yeah,
but-
that was my,
but
that's the
bringing-
only thing that left, and you were trying to get it in 2 weeks. Why wouldn't they write it, even if we didn't use it, if we're not gonna say, if there's not a deduct? I don't understand.
So
I'm just-
I think they still will. I mean, unless this board tells me to tell them not to do it.
Look, I don't mind them being involved, but from my point of view.
Involved. I'm just saying they write
Well,
it, and
I mean,
then you procurement, and,
I don't
But I'm
mind
saying
them.
if-
I don't mind them being involved. I guess as much as anything, just kind of talking with y'all and saying, I think the board is going to end up making the decision.
Absolutely.
So the board, in my opinion, this is one of those things that the board should also make the eventual decision about what goes out in the RFP, and not have it just kind of come to us for, up and down. And I guess as much as anything, especially, this morning, what I was saying, I'm, just kind of committing y'all. I'm going to be, engaged and work with Kristen and work with Bart, and I guess I should have said, with Bart comes, he's got a very intimate relationship with Magellan. They've worked closely for 2 years together, 20 months or something, a pretty long period of time. So, You know, I guess when I was mentioning, you know, working with Kristen and with Bart, I guess the implied factor, especially as long as Magellan is around, Bart would be interacting with them. I wouldn't necessarily envision me interacting with them, but I would expect him to be continuing to interact with them. And, you know, I mean, I think he talked to them, you know, maybe some last night or maybe some today, and would probably continue to do so. And I guess when I was saying, you know, just kind of accept their work product, as much as anything, I was just saying, I don't have an issue with the work that's been done. I don't have that, you know, I'm not going to ask the board, and I don't want to move forward with the implementation the way that it's presented in there, but it's not in any indication about the work product that they did. I'm not, you know, I'm not second guessing it or questioning it or the, you know, questioning the business plan or anything, because the truth is, if, you know, if the numbers that are presented in there, if that's exactly how it happened, if that's exactly how it unfolded, that's what would happen. I'm just wanting to try to mitigate that ongoing risk by saying, I accept your work product. I don't have the skill set to dispute any of those things. I just don't want to risk ongoing capital in a future budget year and say, well, you know, we didn't get as many subscribers as we wanted, or we lost too many because of this competition that came in 3 years from now that we can't anticipate now. And so it's just kind of saying, look, accept the work product that they've done, not wanting them to change it, I guess. I'm not asking them to go back and, well, re-edit this or change this language or anything, just accepting what they've done. And as long as, if they're willing to stay engaged and, you know, kind of interact with Bart, that's fine.
Commissioner Brown, I didn't mean to cut you off. I mean, what I would expect is, you know, what we paid you to do, I would expect for you to do, or I would expect for there to be some deduct in the compensation. So if the RFQ, RFP is a part of it, they can write it and present it to us as a complete work package. And as you said, we decide exactly what's in that, because they would not know, in my opinion, the desires of the five of us for our input on how the RFP or the RFQ looks. And so that would just be, that was my thought. I mean, I don't really have, I'm not really that opinionated either way, but certainly I would need some parameters and guidelines as I look at putting out something for broadband with if we were putting out maybe a construction project, I would understand it, but this I want, and I don't know if we have the expertise in our procurement office. Maybe we do. I mean, maybe Wesley Hall has it, or maybe Bart has it, to be able to construct, you know, an instrument of an RFP that encompasses what we want.
I think the bones are there for it, and I think that whatever's not there can be provided relatively quickly. But, you know, hopefully after, you know, if I can get the support of the majority of the board this evening, that will give me the latitude to then engage with Bart in a way of saying, you know, this is what I want in the RFP. Well, I want this, I don't want this. Up until the discussion tonight, you know, I mean,
I hope that's understood.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I don't have I mean, up until now, or up until we had this discussion publicly, I mean, I don't feel like I haven't had the right to say, well, I don't want this, they shouldn't put this. I mean, it's a board discussion. I appreciate, you know, y'all's support over a number of years, and I just haven't had, until we had this discussion tonight, and hopefully, you know, can move forward with, you know, with some support, then I've got probably the latitude to feel good about giving some more feedback to Bart about what, you know, what I would like in the RFP, and then that comes back to the board, and then, you know, if we ding that and we delete and strike some of that, okay, but at least it'll be coming back closer to what we're talking about tonight, or closer to what I'm, you know, hoping to implement on this, you know, in the north half, than just saying, okay, go do it and bring it back to us. Because us striking and deleting or trying to make a major overhaul of something like that from the dais in a meeting is difficult to think we'd be successful doing that.
No, we can't do it and that's why I'm saying.
So hopefully we won't have much
If someone wrote it with the parameters, and we could in detail have conversation with staff, I mean, it makes sense to me, and because I agree. I mean, we don't.
Commissioner May, one thing that may help you too, so the document that you saw is just the written document, the Word document. you're used to looking at architectural design plans and things like that for building homes. We've got all of those documents as well. We just couldn't print all of those out and put them into that document. It wasn't in a Word format. It's more in a GIS type system, so that when we get ready to hand this off to whoever is going to look at bidding on this, they'll have those shape files that they'll be able to load in their GIS system and know exactly what road we're talking about, what road they're going, if there's a railroad crossing they got to go under or over, they're going to know every bit of that, where every handhole is exactly located. So they'll be able to give, when they get their bid package, they'll be able to say, I know exactly what I've got to do to give Escambia County the right price. So that's not in that document just because we couldn't get it in there, but just to let you know, I know that's where you're thinking, but that is all in there that's been provided to us.
That makes
and then
sense.
just one other thing, I've heard a couple of people talk about Magellan as far as they're selling us something. So remember, Magellan isn't selling it, they're an engineering firm. Really is all they do. So what they're doing, the feasibility study they did was the feasibility of is it feasible that we could do this, and that's what they gave us. And even the engineering it's an engineering, that's what they did. So they're going out, they do this all over the United States, and the prices that I've given you all and showed you in that document basically is saying, based on everything they hear from everybody they deal with, this is what it's going to cost per mile.
So we would have sole sourced this out to Cox in the beginning, and a non-bid. They would have partnered with Magellan to do the engineering and the study.
No, they probably have I would assume they probably have their own staff to do that type of stuff. But not every vendor there. I mean, Magellan is probably one of the largest vendors that does this type of work for a lot of counties and municipalities all over. There are other vendors out there. I mean, we had several that bid against them. So they're just a vendor that does it. But they're in the engineering business. They don't sell the fiber afterwards. They could help us manage it. Sir, they design it. Yes, sir. That's it.
So their role would be they would design it, draw it up, and then
hand it off to somebody to go build. That's exactly right.
And would they construction management after they?
Yeah, they can. They could. They would want to be if we went that route. They would want to do a bid on that work.
So if they put out the RFQ, RFP, and we went by their design, they would want to manage it.
They could manage it, yes, sir. But they don't actually put it in the ground.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
All right, Doug? Yeah, Mr. Chairman, for my vote, I would say that we should go ahead and complete Magellan's work and pick up the conversation once Magellan is done with their work, if for no other reason to avoid the appearance that it is that would be that they were heading in a direction we didn't like, and so we pulled the plug on it to make sure that we didn't have a document on the street that didn't support what we were already wanting to do. So I recommend that we go ahead and let them do their brief, deliver their brief, because it's not just delivering the brief to us. It's the people of Escambia County are the ones that purchased it, and they should have the opportunity to have that brief delivered and on the record. And then again, having their RFP, if nothing else, it'll work out as a very well-supported and documented mask into which we can write. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner May?
No, see what you want to do, man. I've not had a Coke all day. I'm probably about to have one.
So, like I mentioned earlier, what I'd like to do is accept the work product. If we're going to have what are we doing at committee of the whole next week? We are having committee of the whole. What are we doing there?
We got a lot on it.
No, 2 items, right?
Can we limit it to just add this and just those 2 items?
Bart, I don't mind them. I mean, this, I understand what you're saying. It's, maybe not necessarily. I mean, I've had that document for a month, so it should be, and all the language in there that referenced previous dates showed things wrapping up in December of 2021. So I mean, the work's been, the vast majority of the work's been done for some period of time, and I mean.
And Steve, let me say this before you go. I mean, Bart, if you're saying it's a part of their cost, Steve, I'm not interested in, now we said, we want to bring them to a committee of the whole. Now they got to, get 5 first-class plane tickets and 6 hotel rooms. I mean, if it's a part of the cost, but if it's extra, then Steve, no, I'm not interested in it at all. But if it's a part of, that if they show up, Bart, Bart, I'm asking, I guess, the question. Is it a part of the overall contract where they can show up at committee of whole? Or are they gonna bill us for bringing in, 5 consultants and 1 salesperson for hotel rooms and meals and those type of things?
So I would assume we would do it just like we did the last one, where they could just zoom in and do the presentation, unless you wanted them here on site. But the last time, we just did it over Teams.
So we only have 2 things on the committee of the whole next week. I don't have any issue with them making the presentation. I have a lot of qualms about, and the technical part of it, I obviously have no expertise. There are a lot of assumptions and presumptions on the business plan that are assuming this many subscribers, assuming this take rate, assuming a lot of things on that side of it. That's where I would just kind of diverge and try to mitigate the risk 3 years from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, ever having to come and say, things just have not worked out. We need to sell these assets we own in the ground. I think mitigating that risk. But I don't have any issue with the work they've done. And if they want to come and make a presentation at committee of the whole, we only have 2 things on it. I don't think that's inappropriate at all, as long as we're not paying extra for it at a Zoom, next Thursday. That's fine.
Can they do it on short notice like that?
We should be able to do it. They were already working on the presentation, so they should be wrapping it up. I just haven't seen it yet, but it's close.
Yeah, now, be aware.
But I am still gonna ask that we do these other things tonight, and we can start working, coinciding to the fact of them putting a presentation together next week. I want to start working on this RFP. These timelines are going to be aggressive, and that money, $400 million, sounds like a lot until you start doling it out.
Yeah, and then it disappears quick.
Yeah, quickly.
Yeah, very quick.
So, yeah, Bart, if you can set that up, I don't have any issue with that. I don't think that's.
No, one of the items we'll be talking about on Thursday is that 4.1 million for homeless.
Okay.
So, I don't know how long. That's our allocation for the homeless. Remember, the city got a little over 3 million. We got our 4 million. We were going to have a joint meeting with the city.
What happened to that meeting?
Well, it just hasn't happened yet. But that's part of what we're going to talk about on Thursday. So I don't know how long that discussion will be. I don't know how long this presentation will be. Just be aware.
Okay.
That'll be on there.
So
what was the other thing? It was like a 15-minute.
Med-mal insurance.
Oh yeah, med-mal insurance for the jail, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. That would seem to be brief. So if we, accept the work product, and I guess two parts of that one thing. Accept the work product, ask them to come and present their final product next Thursday. But also separate the county into the 2 portions, allocate, or sub-allocate 10 million of the 22 that we set aside from ARPA, and then, specifically say that we want, that we're going to ask the private party to take fiber to the homes rather than utilizing wireless access points. That composed, those 4 items being composed, that's what I would move tonight. I would certainly appreciate y'all's support, and it's going to be very likely this is going to be something that we have to talk about to some degree for the next few months, because things are happening quick, and we, like I said, we want to be there. Sounds like a lot of money until the state starts doling it out, and it goes quick.
All right. Was that your motion? Okay, I'll second it for discussion. I have no issue with any of it, Stephen, and I know these things are, it's a lot. The only thing I would say is for purposes of tonight's vote, we're not really, we're setting that 10 million aside for the northern part, leaving the 12 for the southern part, but we're not voting to send money anywhere tonight. We're essentially just cutting it in half, the money that we've already voted to set into the pot.
Yeah, we're not actually doing a whole lot other than giving indication, and it does give me a level of comfort with support from my colleagues to engage in a little bit more active manner with BART as far as working on that RFP that we try to get out to the private sector pretty quickly. And also, it was an opportunity today to have a lot of discussion about the core part of the project, including the DOT aspect of it, which as a lot of that, or a big component of that was news to me yesterday. I'm going to assume a large portion of that discussion may be news to some of y'all, so hopefully that it's a good opportunity for us to finally be able to talk about that. So.
Yeah, and we have a motion and second, and obviously, if we did not have a motion and second, I'd call Dave back to the mic, Steve. So, I guess what I heard from Dave was, the infrastructure is within the urban core already, and we just need to get it to north of 9 Mile. It's just affordability and the technology and the broadband is there. I mean, is that?
He has hung around. I don't mind David coming back and giving comments.
I mean, is that what you say? I mean, because then it's not 22 or 32 million. Is that what you said? Right. So, and that's what gives me, not completely clear. And I have no reason other than to rely on my friend Dave, who's an expert. But so, okay, I'm good. If it's already existing and it's affordability and we need to do it and we just got to, connect the rest of the county and, we only got to spend 10 million instead of 32 million, go. If it's there, I don't want to recreate it. I mean, I don't want to go, if I had sewer inside of Brownsville and Inslee, I wouldn't try to go put sewer inside there. It exists. I just need to help families who have not been able to afford to connect, because in many of the neighborhoods that I serve, there's sewer, but people can't connect. So if the broadband is there and people just can't afford to connect, then there's a different conversation of resources that I should be providing.
Maybe,
And so-
with.
And maybe those questions we do in committee of the
I
whole.
mean, we know the one, we know the one grant program that's stood up. There are others. There are going to be others. And maybe we don't end up spending the 10 million on this. It sounds like maybe we don't come close to spending the 12 on the core part.
Right.
That is,
And
I
that's
think,
a good
I think
point.
that's a
That's
very good.
good.
I think that's a very high possibility. But what we're going to see when we put it out there is we're going to see competition, because no matter what no matter what our direct spend is, it's a lot of public subsidy towards a capital project with a private vendor. So there's going to be competition for that, because
no question
there's
about it.
competition for the asset that's going to go in the ground. There's competition, and then I would perceive, just from a business point of view, what there's going to be real competition for is the monetization of that subscriber base as perpetual revenue for that capital spend, especially when a capital spend is subsidized in that way. So we're going to see competition. So we may very well, I think it's very reasonable to think that we may not end up spending the 10 up there or the 12 in the core part. And, I think that's a very real possibility. I'm not saying that's what, Mr. Delman said when he gave some comments tonight, but I don't think that's,
He
I don't
nodded
think
his
it's
head when I asked
unreasonable.
the question.
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable based on his comments to think that there's a lot in the ground, and maybe our private partner is going to come back and say, look, you're saying that you want this built and this built and this built. I'm telling you, you don't have to spend that much money, because this is here. We can tap into this. I know you've set aside, maybe for the core part, maybe we set aside, 10 million. Maybe that's what we say, just because for purposes of getting numbers back from a vendor. And they come back and say, look, I know that there was that much allocated. Since this is competitive, and there's going to be certainly perceive there's going to be multiple respondents to the North project and the core project. It's very light. Say, look, I know you set this aside, but you don't need this. We can do this for X number, and then it's going to show that we're going to have funds left there. I don't think, based on some comments from people that know more than I do, I don't think that's an unreasonable outcome to think about. And over the next 3 or 4 or 5 months, there is going to be other grant programs come through, and maybe we have the ability to supplant some of the money that we set aside, and everything we're able to supplant with something else becomes freed up and set aside that is unencumbered, unallocated currently, which is great.
I mean, we have a very welcoming administration in the White House for broadband and communication right now. Yeah, it's tough to get through Congress. We keep the administration where they are, man. We may get a lot of broadband.
Robert, did you want to say anything? You've been noticeably quiet on this topic.
About the administration?
No.
He's very supportive of the administration.
About broadband. All right. Well, guys, we've kind of made glue out of the horse. You got a motion out in a second. Is there anything else, Lumen, you want to talk about?
No. Robert's just
Are
trying
you
to
done?
watch his wife model.
All right.
She already walked?
Are you
I'm
clear
sure
on the
she
motion
did
that you
good.
made?
Yeah, don't worry about it. Well,
Yes,
Here,
sir. I've
she's
noted
gonna-
those.
she-
I've noted those 4 points several times, but I can certainly read that. Well, we've talked about it several times. I feel pretty clear with it, but I have got that we accept the work product from Magellan. We separate the county into a 2-part project, with the line of delineation being approximately at 10 Mile Road. Sub-allocate 10 million for what goes out in the RFP for the northern part of the project, and to not include the wireless access towers, but require that fiber is brought all the way to homes.
The only other part was the first part, accepting the work product and asking them to come and present next week. Thank you.
So that's all there?
That's
Awesome. Okay, my second stands. All right. Any other discussion on this?
I mean, you need to carry the motion, I'll second it.
Okay, that's fine. He'll
I mean-
second
I
it.
mean, because you gotta carry, you gotta, unless you're gonna pass the gavel.
No, you could, well, the chairman
You
can
can
second.
second it?
Yeah, chairman
Okay,
can
you can second
second.
it.
I just can't make a motion, but
I don't
anyway.
know.
All right, we ready to vote? Let's vote. Moment of truth. All right, it passes 4-1 with Doug voting
I
against.
want to explicitly tell my colleagues, thank you very much. It's a
big,
huge.
no, it's a big win for your district,
It's
Steve.
a huge. it's a huge
Congratulations.
thing.
All right, were there
Mr.
anything?
Chairman?
Was there anything
Yeah, I
added to
mean,
the agenda?
No, I mean, we can, at the late hour, I'll wait, I mean.
Okay.
But I do, I mean, on the discussion of homelessness, I know that Travis, who's working in our public safety, and Claire, and our friends at Community Health, Sandra Smiley, have, somewhat engaged in conversation. So, Wes, if they could be a part of this. too. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think Community Health certainly needs to be at the
I've
table.
already planned on having them here.
Yeah,
All right.
Ms. Donaldson and Ms. Smiley. I
With nothing
appreciate it.
further, we're adjourned.